All right, we are now live. Welcome, Dave, to another podcast with Habib.
All right.
Um, yeah, so we had Dave just a little over a month ago, and we went through some questions about social types and other things and the science of it all. This time we have more questions and topics, and we're hoping to get some more interaction from the community. So if you have any
Yeah,
questions, leave them in the little chat window.
that'd be great. I'd
Um,
love to do that. If we could talk to the people, that'd be great.
yeah, we totally will. And yeah, so I had such a good time during the last one. I know when epic 2.5 hours, but this time we'll be wrapping things up a little bit faster. So let's, well, I say faster, but it'll still be a long podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's get into the new website launch. So that's the first topic. So that was, it's really good to see all the new shiny stuff, the terms page, the ebook, the live class that's going to be coming soon, as well as I feel like I'm forgetting something. The celebrity archive.
And the
There's
terms.
yeah,
And
the
the
terms.
terms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like this. Yeah. Well, it's
Oh,
all new and shiny and good.
yeah. Shiny and new. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been great. I'm just always looking at it like all the structure underneath. So I'm like, all right. So what's the code I got to do to update a term? Like Shani wanted to add in Jubilee the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't have Jubilee in the terms. So I had to like write that up and then like try and build the system of like the process of, okay, when I write it on the Google Doc, then how's it go from here to here to here to here to get it updated on the web page, and then can we move the buttons around? So it's like still a lot of my time. It's like everybody's like, yay, but I'm still like, oh, the wires, and I got to figure this out. I got to figure it out. So, but it's going good. It's going really. It's been a nice platform, and just feel like those are kind of all like prototypes of being able to build off of that. So overall, we're really happy. Just a lot of work, but it's really great. Yeah, there's my overview.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, my favorite was the terms page. Like, I even had a question on here about Jack Bauer, and then I look at the terms page. I'm like, oh, it's in there.
Isn't that great? It's
And
actually there.
I'm like, well, I could ask Dave about it, but I already kind of get a glimpse of his FI on that, and that's really good. Um, yeah, the terms page, it's got everything on it, and yeah, if it doesn't, yeah, feel free to keep growing that. It's
Yeah,
and
that's the
I
plan. Yeah.
kind of love the subjectivity of it, like because you got the ebook, right, which seems so
Right.
nice from like in my perspective, kind of like the NESI, because
Yeah. Right.
it's like, all right, what's the strict SI definition to explain the animals in
Right.
like the best way, so you don't get it wrong, and it's um so yeah, the ebook's really good for that, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Very
And then
different
the
frame of mind.
terms
Yeah.
is super subjective, like FINI kind of, but it's
Yeah.
good. It's like that good, you kind of really get your feelings out there.
Right.
And
Long
yeah.
term, I just would like to balance exactly that is how it ended up. And Shani helped me with that because I kept writing like personal aggressive stuff on the ebook. She's like, who the hell are you yelling at? Like, this is just an ebook to explain the parts. I'm like, oh. So I go into the terms, let's start yelling over there. And so I'm trying to, so having those exactly separate. And then all I want to do with the terms is get them to all kind of balance out. I'm tempted to use the Chat GPT, but I kind of want to use the Chat GPT for projects, because terms, a lot of it is for myself, like getting my N and my S to work together, and therapy and processing my emotions and all that. So I do want to try and get them a little bit more balanced. You know what I mean? Like I'll go in and I'll read it and I'll be like, oh wow, that one's way embarrassing. This one's really good. That one's really bad. Kind of even them out. And then once I feel like I can kind of take it as far as I can, then maybe throw some AI over it and smooth it out or whatever. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the ridiculous FI ride. There's definitely some funny ones, insulting ones, boring ones, Sometimes I'll go to a term and think there'll be a lot there, and it's just like, well, somebody didn't want to write this morning. There's only 3 lines on this one, But it's been fun, yeah.
Yeah, and another one that's like kind of new. I'm not sure how much of a secret you're keeping it, but the audio page,
Oh, the
like,
Dave audio
what do you?
page, yeah. Oh, God
Yeah.
damn. Yeah, that one.
Okay. Is that more of like a hey Johnny, come over here? Like, yeah,
That one,
discover.
I'm having the hardest time winning at that. So I've got I'm keeping a Google Doc of all the people that I talk to gather the ST. And I'm like 30 people or whatever, and you're on the list. And so I'll just write a little note to myself of how the experience went, how the interaction went, how did I do as far as talking to them on the audio? Did I help solve their problem? Like, I'm really looking for the ideal clients. It's like after a couple of days, they're tapping out. They're like, okay, whoa, this is helping a lot. I see what I need to do. And they're like, all right, I need to go. And, we say goodbyes and they go and they work on their stuff. And they've got a lot of, brain changes and stuff like that. But then watching the ratio of if you're watching me constantly change the Dave audio page, which I'm doing constantly, I'm trying to deal with the ratio is, I would say, about 1 out of 10. Yeah, I just get some subjective off the fucking planet person that is just, I'm at home and kind of bored and don't like life. Thoughts? And I'm like, thoughts what? Like, you're drinking bleach. Don't tell me about your fucking stomach ache. Like, I don't have anything to work with here. And that's where it's like, over the years, having a lot of interaction with people that are just way off. Like, I can't help somebody down that low. If you got 2, I can help you get 4. You know what I mean? If you're at 0, I can't help you get 1. So I've been trying like lots of different ways to, like, give me your goals and we can talk about this and not that. And it's like, all right, it's not about the thing, it's about the identity. Because it's like, well, does Dave type the social types? You know what? It depends on who the person is. It depends on who they are, how they interact. And if in 3 days I got a fucking shit mess on my hands, then you know what? I can't do it. We're not doing that. But if it's like somebody who's owning, they're calm, they're cool, they know what's going on, they're responsible in some way, shape, or form, or whatever, where I'm able to give them a little bit, and it's not going, well, what you gave me, I see 50 contradictions and problems. So the more pass back and forth, the problems get larger and larger and larger. You know what I'm saying? Versus somebody they're starting with a problem, they're defining it well, and by the end of 3 days, we've got it down. That's all about the person, not to jump camps from observer to decider. I thought I could make it an observer problem, but it's really a decider problem. So at this point, I now have it back to where you can fill out the thing, and then you can't send me the payment because I need to review it to be like, can I win here? And again, it's my push is, I'm trying to get the people that I can't help or I can't work with, which is 1 out of 10. And sure, a part of that is me as well. Not that they couldn't work with somebody else, it just can't work with me. And I'm trying to like get them out of the way so I can get the flow with all the other people. Because that's the revenge I'm trying to get from over the past few years of, we had a lot of phone calls and openings, and 9 out of 10 people are great, but it's that consistent troublemaker that ends up wrecking it for everybody else. And any school teacher, or anybody who's worked at church or whatever, or at work, exactly what I'm talking about. That 1 out of 10 or whatever. And so just trying to get all that figured out. Go stay on the offense.
Yeah, the interesting thing, like, I have just like even the next bullet point here on the list is something about the marketing. And it seems like there's a marketing difference, and you've been in online marketing for a long time. And there seems to be a difference between, like, let's say high ticket sales versus like the low ticket.
Yeah.
And this is such a like consumer friendly, like the lower ended friendly thing where you could just learn everything for free on YouTube, and then like, all right, good luck, free, you haven't paid anything, and you learned this whole system. Wow. But then, on the other side of business, there's the high ticket version where you pay $997 for like, but you know what you want, and they're kind of qualifying you along the way. There's something called a qualified lead. I'm learning this stuff for the first time now, and I don't know. But there seems to be like this high ticket sales version versus like maybe nurturing them from the bottom, which does seem like that's kind of the loving energy I was talking about in our last podcast. Where you are like working with people on like the bottom, but and you're kind of helping them on their way up. But your issue is more with the person who's just like not moving,
Yeah, right. That's definitely a problem. Yeah. And then the Dave audio thing, like, for right now, not in the future, but for right now, I don't want to make money at it, or I don't need to make money at it. I'm using the money it's one of my many tools that actually isn't doing as much as I thought. It's trying to, like, well, if I have the price higher, it'll attract higher level people. Yeah, that does help. But okay, so now my ratio is 1 out of 15. And so I'm still back to, all right, I gotta, so if I'm refunding 1 out of 15 people, then the payment software is now coming to me going, hey, why is your refund rate so high? I'm like, I know, so I'm like, so I got like kind of like trapped on all these different sides. So I'll kind of move the price around, but I've really settled on like, right now it's like at $89 or whatever. It's like, I don't want to charge people more money, because I'm seeing right now the large demographic that we have are kids that are 25 years old. And again, 9 out of 10 of them, they come to me with enough that we can bargain. We can talk about, okay, what is it that I can help you with. They're like, well, I'm thinking about this job where I want to get into acting and I might need to be moving cities. I'm like, okay, that's something objective. We can talk about, okay, what city is it? What job is it? Where are you at now? How are you paying? Like, so we can still talk about type, but it's got to be on the A to B, the flow. There's got to be something else that we're looking at as far as some kind of action in any way, shape, or form. So anything objective we can work with. If it's I'm stuck in my bed and I'm sad, okay, well, try this. Already tried that, doesn't work. Okay, try this. Tried that, doesn't work. And like 4 days later, it's still that. So I'm trying to keep the price low as well, because I also want to have the ability to keep my promises low. So because I need to settle to see exactly where is the 90-10. Like, is the average interaction, is it 3 days? Is it 4 days? Is it 1 day? It's not 1 day. I found that. It's definitely not 1 day. 5 days is a little bit long, so maybe around 3 days. How far do you go? So I'm trying to like figure out where the equilibrium is, and then when I can figure out how to scale that, then I can start looking at, changing prices or whatever. But it's Gary Vee always says this. It's like, don't just listen to what I say, but watch what I do. So if anybody's watching, because I have this page buried unless you find it, like, you're just going to see me since December, just like aggressively trying this and aggressively trying this and then switching this around. And I'll just keep messing around with it until I get it figured out where it works on all sides. But then from there, I got to go, okay, now how do you scale it? Like, could I then figure out, okay, what are the common questions that people are asking? What are they stuck on? After I've done 100 audios to 100 people that are actually working, okay, now can I show Michael, hey, so here's what most people are going to ask with this issue, and here's what I found works. And so now you can start scaling it that way, But just real quick on the higher price thing, I want to be able to build the business over time to where things like that are available, but I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be doing the higher price things, because what I've found with experience on doing that to some degree is a lot of times, real quick, you'll get somebody with a lot of money and they're still just nothing but a problem, but now they own you. I'd watch my marketing buddies do that in the early days. We started off with $50 ebooks in 2008 or whatever. And then so some of us are going this way and some going that way and selling the high price items, and watching my friends go that way over the years. They end up making millions of dollars on, $30,000 masterminds or whatever. But now some crazy old lady owns you. It feels like shares in a company, So if we've got over 1,000 people and they all got a $20 ticket, when one of them gets really mad with 10 of their friends, they're like, yeah, but that's still less than 1% of the company, versus you got 10 clients paying you 10 grand and 2 of them are mad, you're in trouble, and they're psycho. So now you're really in trouble, So
Speaking of which, like, I could feel that, from like the number one energy of like, I have a good friend in the community. Her name is Siwan. She's ENTJ, and I think she's a number one. But anyway, she was asking, she's like, oh, how do I buy shares in Objective Personality?
I saw
like,
that. I saw that question. Yeah. That was good.
That would be super cool. That's where Maya and I would, put some. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing by even like learning and staying in the community, and like I'm investing in the system and everything, and all that. But that would be really cool to literally just be able to invest. I think when you mentioned like crypto and stuff, or like
that, when it came around,
NFT,
when the NFTs came around, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Because like secretly, and I can't really talk about this or share this, but it's like the way that I feel from going through my business life from my 20s, and like, going and like begging your friends and family for money. And that's a really hard, painful thing that you shouldn't actually be doing. You shouldn't be going to your friends and family for money to start a business. So the burden of proof is on you, whoever's actually doing that, because you're like, my friends and family, like, no, you shouldn't. Like, all the FEs are like, yeah, duh, right? So, but then finding that like the people that would actually fund me were like the sharks and the credit card companies and the banks and like the bad guys. Like, they're like, I'll loan you 10 grand. Now you're going to give me 20%. You're like, yeah, but you'll give me 10 grand. It's like, yeah. And so it's like, oh, so my friends ended in the financial space ended up being credit card companies, and not ideally what you would want, and that is people you love, So secretly, how I've always looked at it is anybody that signs up for our membership since day one, so anybody now or in the past ever, it's like, to me, it feels like an FI, it's like FE with the social value exchange using the SE money. It's like FI's got their weird little stupid games, So to me, I already feel that way. I feel like anybody that signed up for the membership, it feels very FI to me. It feels like they're already investing in the company. And so I think about, and I don't say this out loud, but like what I think about is like, okay, someday when this is huge, like what could I do for people that had signed up in 2020 and, that were there for a few months and invested in us in the early days, and nobody believed, when nobody believed in us and nobody would invest. And it was really small back in the day. But then I remember when seeing just a lot of different ideas of that some might be more financially ST scale, like NFTs, like you could actually buy something that is a legitimate ST stock in the company, as well as like, I guess what I'm processing out loud is like being the type of person that if it's 10 years from now and we're doing really good and somebody's like, hey, I've known you from the early years, I was a member, and like, oh, well, how are you doing? How can I give back to you at this point in your life? Because that meant a lot to me at the time, but I couldn't say anything, So yeah, a whole world of processing and emotions there on investing.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, Swan.
I
How do you say your name?
yeah,
Siwan.
Shawan.
Swan.
Yeah, I mean, even I am struggling. I think she'll get the good vibes from it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's something on there like about the ops split. Now, we don't have to get into this too
Oh
much.
yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
But that one was like something that like struck me when I was like going through the terms. I was just like, oh, like this is it. Like it's now written on here that like you see this. And
Yeah.
this is what I'm like kind of fascinated with, because there's kind of the other side of people you want to help. Right.
Yeah.
And then and this is a hard lesson learned. Like, unless you're out there like trying to put yourself in Dave's shoes, or doing it yourself, or helping people in real life, like you're gonna see a split. Like this is something, I
Yeah.
think, a universal pattern
Exactly.
where you're like, oh, I want to be around this person, not this person.
Right.
And then it starts impacting you in business. It starts impacting you in personal life. And yeah, so what do you have to say about like the ops split? How you're thinking about it right now? And in the
So it's,
future?
just to give some context, it's like, and you and I noticed the types that have SETE, so we're not exchanging with the FE and the NE. We're looking at what is the sensor in reality with the tribe. And so the one of a few areas that I actually consume is like the business world and stuff like that, and have for a lot of years. So I do have data on, who is it? It was Lamborghini pissed off Ferrari, or was it the other way around? I think Ferrari was first, and Lamborghini went to him, and he's like, "Fuck you, tractor guy, get out of here." He's like, "All right, that's it." And then like Lamborghini was spawned off of a fight with Ferrari, and like this is like Coke and Pepsi and McDonald's, like every single one is like, it's a spawn off of the original one. And so it's a natural, normal thing for any successful business as it's going and growing to have splits, and then the competition. And then also too, I remember years ago, this is in the RC world, really settling with the ecosphere of how good competition is. Like you don't want to be, if it's like people think they're like, well, if I didn't invent the pet rock, if I didn't come up with this idea, then oh, never mind. Like no, that's so not how you want to do it. You don't want to come up with, well, I don't know what business to do because everything's already been done before. Like, and it's actually the reverse. You want to go and find a business market that is saturated, and then that's just massive. And then you want to start looking at what is the pie and what slivers are left, or is there somebody that's dominating? There's hardly any pies left, or something like that. You don't want to go to a market where there's only one guy or there's nobody there. So it's like, if we're the only one in the space, then that shows that it's weird. It's still undercover. Nobody knows about it. There isn't attention. So it's actually not good. So part of a healthy growth of a business is that it starts to grow and starts to expand and starts to take over the market. And then as that market is a big piece of pie, it's like there's so many different aspects of the market. Like in the soda business, they're like, well, I want a caffeine-free soda. And then it splinters off that way. And it's like, so it's going to be a natural thing of like the large split that I'm looking at and I know there's be lots of different ways to look at it depending on who you are, is from what I've seen, and maybe I will see it kind of early on, and I see it more and more each year, is you got like the weaponized version of ops. And that's the one that is like, that's the one I'm always trying to process of like how much of an offensive weapon. Like if you want to lie to somebody or trick somebody or CIA them or get ahead of them or Jack Bauer them, like holy shit, this thing is just stunning what it can do in the battle zone of dealing with the people and drama and politics and fighting and all that kind of stuff. It's intensely crazy. And then on the other side, what it can do for self-growth and healing and trauma and realizing what you went through is normal according to your type. There's a lot of freedom there. Now, I also know on both sides of these, like there's only like 1% of the population wants to know about either one of these. Like nobody really wants to know what goes on in politics and all that. They really don't. Nor would you want to do it. It's exhausting and scary and all the rest. And then same with like nobody really wants to know, oh, by the way, your rack of bullshit is actually this, this, and this. You actually can heal. You actually can get on with it, but you don't want to because you're a drama bitch. So, you know, like nobody really wants to know that either. So like you have these two extremes. And then you have like kind of the market. And then you have the middle. The middle is like, you know, TED Talks that are like, I like learning. And they just like sit there in the middle. Interesting. What's my profile? And it's just kind of, they're not really doing anything. It's just, you know, the next cool thing to you know, consume or whatever. So kind of seeing those two extremes and then knowing everybody's kind of in the middle. It's like, that's how you and I are with Lamborghini and Ferrari. Like, I don't own one, never will. But it's like, cool. I'll watch them race. I'll have my opinion. I wonder how hard it is to work there. I don't really care. I'm not going to buy one, you know, but I'll sit there in the audience and I'll listen to it. I'll watch a goddamn documentary on how Lamborghini was built. I'll do that all day long, but I'm not going to get in the air. So like most people and most things are like, you know, I'm not a diehard Coke fan, but I'll have one at a restaurant. Sure. Whatever, you know? So,
exactly, yeah.
So seeing like
that
to
die on.
So like just not being like, my thing is real and everyone like, shut up. No, there's no, like Steve Jobs, like invented like the greatest phone ever. And then like a couple years later, like, yeah, normal, you know, everybody's got one. It's no big deal. You move on. So just trying to get ready for that. And then the challenge is for myself is I'll go back and forth, it feels like, depending on the year, of I'm like all in on like, you know, FBI shit and like let's get serious. And then like I need that side of the spectrum for like building the standards and building the systems and getting things fast and hiring and self-growth and building a team. So like you got to be able to deal with that side. And then it's like, then you open up a Dave audio page and you start talking to people all day. You're like, oh my gosh, the love and the healing and the self-growth, and look at all these people that do want to grow. And it's a lot more than I thought, you know? And so then you're going down the self-growth, and they're very contradictory from each other. And it's hard to, you know, what you're using on one side is very different from the other. So just realizing that this tool is going to go all over the place, and I want to be able to. What I'm really looking forward to is I saw this in RC with this guy named Greg. Is watch somebody step the fuck up and start taking over this or whatever, and then be able to start partnering with them. Because I saw that with competition, like if you think about it, it's like Ferrari and Lamborghini wanted to work with each other. Like they don't, and now these days they probably do to some degree. It's like your competition doesn't want to like end you or you know, like anybody who's in the arena and is dealing with objective reality that you're staring at real fucking fast end up being friends, and you end up going like, hey, can I have all these customers here that I can't service, can I send them to you? And then the ones that you have that you don't want, could you just send them to me? And you do the networking thing or whatever. So
yeah, I know the question comes up about like business opportunity and stuff and ops, and there's so much. I think you and I are on the same page, and Michael's on that page, and Shan also is eventually on that page as well, something like that. You know, I should get her take on everything as well. But it's but yeah, like the opportunity is there. And just to give my FI, at least, like you know, most of this I'm gonna direct to Dave, but like at least my own FI take of like what I'm trying to do in the ops community is to do something like on the coaching side, which that's where I'm putting my FI NI in, is like, hey, we have this tool. We have a bunch of people derping or just screwing around on the internet, being like, hey, new theory, new tool. Oh, I have the best type, you know? And it's like, and then everyone from ENTPs to ESFPs will be like, hey, so what have you done?
Right.
So how has it helped you? And it's like, oh, wait, it hasn't helped you? What are we doing here?
Right.
And then they're like, oh, I'm leaving the Facebook group, or I'm leaving this or that. Right. And it's like, yeah, why don't you actually start? So my FI is in, hey, let's like start using this tool and actually start shoveling or picking away, you know, let's start carving the stone.
Right. Right.
Yeah, let's move forward in our actual lives with it. And so those are the people I'm trying to help. I'm trying to
Right.
coach, and people who are in that
And it's
situation.
it's only getting better over time from what I've seen. As much as you'll hear us complaining all the time, it's like I'm definitely seeing. I think it's a natural thing in an industry. Alex Ramosi talks about this. Like Alex Ramosi is like he talks about his master plan is to like get all this information out on investing and business and stuff like that, because long term he's looking for an entire generation to grow up and then want to build their businesses and then come back around to him and want to partner with his big business collaboration or whatever. And I've seen a couple different long-term business people talk about that and think about that. And even for me, like that's not really something I think about, but I'm kind of like watch it happening. Like I remember in the RC world in the early days, it was a brand new industry to take this. I know this is like an old RC story, so please, like Shan, if you're watching, laugh your ass off and throw this in my face. The same old stories, but the RC stuff, it was they have what are now drones, the drones that fly around. So those were I know the guys and watched the guys that started messing around with those in like 2004, and they're actually started off with three propellers rather than four, and they're taking RC helicopter tail blade parts and making them, and they were just god awful or whatever. But so like it starts off in the lab somewhere, and it's just a small group of guys and just a small. And so I had to watch like an entire, as Gary Vee talks about, an entire generation. You had to watch. It's usually about 15 years or just under 15 years of like where people like don't even remember or weren't even around in the pioneer. They just like grew up. You gotta be around. It seems to be like watching the kids with social media. I've been paying attention to that. Like at what point is social media normal to the kids at school? And I've watched that happen with Cody. And I remember, because to me, social media was like here and real all the way back in 2008 when nobody else, the mainstream, they're like, no, social media is fake. It's just a fad. It'll go away. And it's like, no. And then I think 2016 was a big year where I think a lot of companies, it was like if you were Toyota and you weren't on YouTube, you're in last place. Like everybody had figured it out. But even the cars started to have like USB ports and started to accept like Apple Play or whatever by 2016 or even sooner. But it was a big change from 2008 to 2016 of most people saying, I don't know what you're talking about too. Yeah, I'll get on board. So knowing that I think a lot of it too is I kind of I stay very, very busy, and I'm very, very not patient, but I'm also like knowing I kind of got to wait it out. Because I am seeing in my emails more and more of people going, yeah, I used to watch your original YouTube channel when I was in junior high. And they're like in their 20s having a baby, I'm like, wow, wait, how long have I been doing this? Like it like takes a long time to see the generations grow up. The same with the quadcopters. Now everybody knows what they are. What are you guys called? Drones? Everybody has one. Everybody knows what they're easy. You just press a button, they fly themselves. And that took a long time. So kind of seeing that, seeing now in the space that people are on their own starting to grow and create their own groups and do their own stuff and have their own terms, and like creating an ecosphere where like the young people come in and then the existing class beats the hell out of them and grows them up. And therefore, just the baseline, I guess, the baseline of the community is slowly getting higher. And then my next guess would be now it'd start to be people, like yourself and others going, all right, you know what? I've been in this long enough. It's settled in long enough that I'm ready to start doing my own thing. So I think it's something that takes about 7 to 10 years before it actually gets going, which I think is, if I'm seeing it right, is kind of starting a little bit,
Yeah, it's really good to see.
Yeah.
So switching gears just a little bit, still new website stuff. So that was the original topic. The Shan's Live Show. I have
Yeah.
Sadek here from the community asking about it, but it was already on my list. But yeah, he said like what are they going to cover? And what I want to ask is like, yeah, just so yeah, what do you think Shan is going to cover in the, or generally what's going to be covered in that live show? Like what is that filling? Like what void or
Yeah.
what purpose
Huge
is that
void. Yeah.
filling? And then I also want to kind of ask as a follow up, like, or maybe I should ask like what is it like watching Shan go through this process and kind of come into
Yeah.
her
Right.
own, and that because it's like a major, people I can even see on like some of the YouTube videos, people are like, where's Shan? And it's just like
Yeah.
they don't, the people on YouTube, maybe they don't know that Shan's doing her own show and stuff, right? And it's like, um, but it is an evolution, right? It's
Yeah.
a real, this is a different year, 2023, like compared to the last whatever
Yeah.
years. Like there's new stuff coming on. But
Yeah.
yeah, so what is the live show, and then like how is it watching Shan go through that?
It's really good. Yeah, so I can't start only at the bottom. So it's like it's her and I in our 40s now. It's we're finally we've gone through such a whirlwind the past 20 years of just both of us being extroverted. I mean, she's favorite play, and I'm blast. So it's just like we're just like family business, just off and running in our 20s. And so we never really had a lot of time to like stop as individuals and do our own thing. It was always like me and the team and the business and the partner and whatever else. So it wasn't a lot of like, okay, so what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? And so we kept seeing in the business stuff that like how much growth you get from playing person A, person B, where you can play the role of the helper, or you play the role of the one that's got to stay up all night and fix the problems, you know what I mean? And then trade back and forth. And so at first, in the first early years, it was just like, as we got into business and having a kid and running a family and this, oh, whoops, the ops genetic code, like that was kind of large and hard to deal with. And then how do you build a membership area? So it was like way out of flow state. It was way too much and way too hard for either one of us. Like neither one of us were like getting ready for that in our 20s. So by the time it hit us in our early 30s, we're like, what is this? So we're always playing catch up. And so now I feel like we've kind of gotten caught up. And so everything is not fight or flight. It's not, okay, stay up all night and figure this out, or what do we do? What's going on? I feel like we've kind of been able to, especially with the website launch, been able to like kind of level off. So now the projects aren't all gun to the head where we're all going, oh, I have no idea how to do this. Well, let's stay up all night and figure it out again, So now it's like we have platforms where now we can start to choose projects we want to do, and we don't have to drag in everybody else, because some projects it's like, yeah, let's do these projects together, like the main class shows, like we'll be doing those together. And then it's like, well, what about this project over here, that project? Like, what if we start kind of like the op split thing? Like, what if we start kind of covering two different grounds? So the live show especially is kind of also kind of like a rebound of like Shan going like, look, I've been largely on the ride for all of Dave's damn consistent blaster shows. She's like, I want to have creative freedom to make mistakes, try things out, fuck things up, have some new ideas, and not have Dave breathing down his neck or her neck going, hey, we got to get this done by tomorrow. So she's definitely found that like an example she'll tell is like, we have this water machine, this water distiller. It's such a goddamn. It's like you wake up like, what have I been doing? And she's like, see, I told you. So it's like this water. I promise I'll tie this in and I'll answer your question. So like I grew up the water distiller machine. Like you pour the water in and then it boils it and then drops in the container. But it takes like 6 hours, and then you just get half a gallon or whatever. So we got two of them, and so it was like you always get. And now you got all these people in the house. So we're like, you're just always filling up these water machines, and then you got to set the timers right. You got to boil them, and if you get it wrong, they start steaming and they make a mess. And so they're just a giant drama. Like we tried to like beat Cody into doing them, and like just everybody hates them. It's just a giant hot potato. And so Shan is like, God, can we do something besides your consume last water machine that you got from your dad in 1989? And I'm like, I'm busy. I'm like total classic consume last. Like I have to keep producing the water. I don't have time to research and find new ones. And so this is an example of like so many areas that we're stuck as consume blast idiots, And so finally, after years of her, complaining at me or us throwing it back and forth at each other or fighting about just this unconscious negative fight, right? She finally like goes around and like sets up a reverse osmosis, which I don't know why they call it reverse. Like it's flowing in a normal direction.
Yeah.
Like it's like a regular osmosis. It's really genius. It's like a
job security,
right?
That's what the specializers
There's
do.
nothing reverse about it. I watched. I understand how it works. It's really just a super thin screen that the water molecule that has a toxin on it can't fit through. So only a pure one can fit through the screen. That's it. It's just a really fine screen or series of screens. Anyways, so she sets that up off to the side, and then now it's a competing water system to mine. And so she's like, here, try this. And I'm like, what the hell's all this shit under the sink? And what's this is new. This is scary. She's like, here, try the water. I'm like, wow, it's actually really good. She's like, yeah, it tastes the same. And so now, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, all right, fuck this. And I'm like taking apart the old one, like just getting rid of it, And so she really realized like, oh, to maneuver around the consume last, who's on the blaster thing, who can't stop because I'm just trying to stay caught up. She's like, I got to build something around the side while he's running independently. So right away, and it's like, it makes so much sense why like watching how the military does like their fighter jets, they constantly put Lockheed and Boeing against each other. And it's kind of really sad. The one that loses, they make some amazing jet. They're like, you lost the contract, and it just goes in a museum somewhere. And everybody talks about, man, that's the one that should have won. But it's like, what? That's so heartbreaking. Like, why do they do that? Like, that's kind of really what forces the best. So with that overview, with that kind of psychology behind it, with that emotion behind it, the live shows is kind of a way for Shan to like get her car from stuck behind me in the slow lane and get around the side and jet out forward. And the voids and stuff that she'll be addressing is all the traffic flow of you got these blaster shows that are very consistent. There's a lot of positive to it, blah blah blah, but there's no comment section, there's no interaction. If you send us an email, it goes nowhere. So it's not a normal social media interaction where you're producing videos and then having some type of a back and forth with the community. Like we had so much of that in RC, we just got burned out of it to hell. So we're like, no, I'm not going to jump in that pit without some help. That's my only thing is like, I'll go back in. I'm just not going alone. That's where I'm like, no, I won't do it. I will not go in alone because I'm just up all night with all these fucking messages. You know what I mean? So not that I don't sneak in here and there, but catch me. So she's like trying to build something to take all that bottled up tribe energy head on, which also makes sense. Like as a double decider, I'm like, people, they'll be fine. And she's like, no. And then also I think I see as well like the 1 and the 4 thing. Like I was seeing the sensitivity, the 1s and 4s have relationships with each other, or not relationships, but like a dynamic, like EPs and IJs do. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of a relationship or dynamic or north and south magnetic pole thing. Because the 1s and the 4s, they don't really trigger me. I mean, they'll annoy me, but I'm like, you're playing a different game, whatever, weirdo. Right? But like the 3s, they're like, I know how to do entrepreneurship step by step. I'm like, no, you got to do it all at once. And so it's like they'll get me all triggered, So seeing that she has more, it's like everything she's been saying with words, now like I can connect the emotions to it when I see like the 1 and 4 dynamic. If she's like, hey, we got to talk to the people, we got to engage the people, we got to give jubilees to the people. And so the live show, she's working really hard to make it very interactive for the people. And so she's like taking polls and stuff to see like, okay, do you guys want me to just give a blaster speech? Probably not, but what's going on here? So she's in the calibration stage. She's working really hard with Michael on trying to over ST some questionnaires and docs where like people can put in their questions and like vote it, which is really back to like where you end up wasting all your time is on the silliest, stupidest shit. But it's like, that has been a big challenge of like, if you just open up your email bin, you just get everybody with their life story. They're like, well, here's my time for free therapy. And there's just 10 pages of shit. You're like, I just needed a quick question for a show, And so it's hard to like, to deal with.
It's interesting to see the questions come in and then potentially like upvoting them. And so you get the best questions. So even the tribe will come after each other. And maybe this is not what I hear. Well, actually, I do hear about it from you guys sometimes, but just so you know, the tribe, we fight each other, in terms of like we TE, FE, TI, we use all the functions on each other to make sure like the cream rises to the top. And so if someone asks like a dumb question, it's like they'll hear about it next Monday or whatever, or next Tuesday.
Right. Because the problem has been, if we do it Dave's old-fashioned water machine way, it's like, well, just have a thing and have everybody email you because it's simple. It's a simple, I can use Gmail. That's all I can use. And you're like, okay. And then you have all this problem. And then it's like, oh, well, then have some kind of an app or an interaction or a form or a Facebook thing or something that's out in the community. And then Dave's like, well, but I don't know how to work that software, so I'm not going to do it. And then everyone else is like, well, Dave doesn't want to do it, so we don't do it. Then it all falls apart. So it's like, as soon as we can get somebody to be like, all right, you know what? Fuck this Dave guy. Let's not use just Gmail. Let's actually take it out. And then now Shan's kind of on a roll where she's like, all right, yes, it is use the forms or use it where you can get upvoting and stuff like that. Because then we start to realize, oh, the problem we've been having in the email is that it's private. if you have a one-on-one with somebody, they're like, you want to see my most toxic side ever, and you can't tell anyone, blah. But you have the same person. Shan's been saying this for years. The same person in a public forum, everyone's on their best behavior. Instantly, they know what objectivity is. All of a sudden, magically, it's fucking
Oh my
amazing.
God, I've seen this. I'm just so glad you've said it. You've said the words. You're aware of this pattern
Yeah,
because it is the game. And I think it is a 1-4 versus 2-3 game. And
yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah,
Shan's been saying this for years. She's been
yeah,
wanting to do a live show for years.
yeah,
And even me, like right now, I'm like kind of getting into like the coaching space and I see there's a whole funnel of things that you could do. And
yeah.
I'm like,
Right,
what? You could do a mini course. You could do like a freaking like a webinar or this or that. Like
right.
there's so many other things you can do, and
You
it's
just have
just
to have an
like,
owner behind it, and that's where we've been
ah,
stuck is like any one thing you do, like, okay, then
yeah,
you are the guy who's up all night when it breaks down. Everyone else is going home. Everyone else has got a 5-day vacation. You don't. You got to fix it. And that's where she is right now, just taking it on the front end of like, she's now figuring out, okay, the more we go in this direction of having a forum that has upvotes and only lets you write this, like you got to figure out like a Tim Ferriss split test. Do you let them write this much or this much? Okay, well, if they write too little, you have this problem. If you have them write too much, you have this problem. Like you can't just willy-nilly that. You got to like get that figured out. Okay, then does the vote work this way or that way? Oh, let me use the one that comes with Wix. Oh, once 3 people are on it, the whole thing crashes. Okay, so do we get another one? Oh, now you're outside the paywall. Oh, okay. Well, is that okay? Okay. Well, what if we tweak the code? Oh, well, let me call Walter. Okay, wait. So now you're just, here you go, just to get all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, she's working on all that kind of stuff now, and God knows whenever the hell it'll be done. But because that kind of stuff just takes forever. But that once that gets done, then she's got a foundation where she's like, okay, I got my ST, I got my tools. Here's how, because she's got to create a fast, easy, fun flow back and forth with the community, which we haven't been able to beat before. It's like trying to do a water machine. Like, I haven't been able to beat that level. So that's what she's trying to beat is that, and then get the flow, and then back to that kind of like let it level itself out. Because that's what I'm telling her as well. I'm like, hey, if you can just get the basic, you figure out your basic software that is actually usable, that the community uses and she uses, right? That's kind of a hard match to find, especially for a single observer. Then it feels like the shows kind of end up settling themselves. You start to realize, oh, people like story time a little more. Let me put that at the end. Okay, they do like a message, but they like it in the middle. Let me put that here, make that 20. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff kind of sorts itself out, I noticed. So really
yeah,
good stuff, though. It's definitely going to be a lot of energy is going to come flying down that pipe. That's what I'm seeing.
yeah. I think everyone should be super excited for it. Like, if you're not signed up for the new website, I'm gonna plug it for them. Like, yeah, that's I'll flex for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Which I find myself doing a lot for the Friends people. Anyway,
Yeah, thanks. All right.
check out the new website, objectivepersonality.com. There's a live show. You don't want to miss it. It's live. Okay, so you want to watch it live.
And it's been
You
going
can
great.
ask
I think
questions there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot for that. So yeah, we got the old website, and we're seeing every day more and more people are signing up for the new one. It's only been a few weeks, and I think we're past the halfway mark. So we're way ahead of schedule. That most people are
Wow, good to
are
know.
moving over just fine. So that's great. That's really great. But yeah, it's definitely just to plug that thing. It's like when you get a chance, you're like, oh, you know what? I really do need to use the terms. That's what my friend told me. Like do it when you have to. Like, okay, what's going on? The live show? I think the Dave audio page, video typing, eventually the terms, all the new good stuff is going to only be on the new site. And then once you're like, okay, I do want to see that then justifies. I'm like trying to like talk the observers because I know how scared they are.
Yeah.
I know how
I
scared
think
I
some
am.
people are on like the billing cycle. They're like, all right, I'll get it on the next billing cycle
Right.
or something like that. So that's
Totally.
what some people are waiting on, I think. And but yeah, it's but I would
That
say, like, as someone with Consume, like I tested both websites, and you're not missing out on anything by
yeah, yeah.
staying, by moving over
Unless you're a damn
to
observer.
the
Like
new.
I'm telling
Yeah.
Shan and Michael, I'm like, you don't know like how scary that would be for me. And I got to get my credit card back out. Like, oh, okay, I'll do this tomorrow. I'm gonna have a panic attack. Like they're like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, hey, observer fears. Like there's just nails on a chalkboard for me. Of like entering in my PIN number or writing, trying to get the credit card number or whatever. But yeah, once you do it, then it's over on the new one. All the new stuff will be adding in there. So yeah, I'm figuring with the live show, it'd probably be, my guess would be if she's doing it roughly once a month, whatever it ends up being, it's probably going to be a few months of calibration, like
Yeah.
shooting way to the left, way to the right, and then start to get in the middle. Her first one was really great energy wise. She's like, oh, is it too chaotic. People are saying it's too chaotic. I'm like, no. I'm like, your job was to make it too chaotic the first time. Is just to go out, be very open, very play energy. So you knocked it out of the park as far as like interact with the people, excited, love, trying everything, and then over time that'll start to kind of get tweaked in. So yeah, I'm trying to stay. I've learned to control what you can control, like have the best software that's interactive, that works, and everybody's happy with it, and then also know that there'll be a settling. Like let the flow settle, and don't try to have too much of a strong picture of how it'll be. Like let it settle over time. So, anyways, exciting stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what's interesting? I have this question later down the line. It's not as important, but I just want to make a short. Let's just take a short detour to this question. I think we talked about it, where I don't have real play and you don't have real sleep in a way. And I'm going to shortcut with, I think someone else asked a question somewhere. Oh, Sasha asked, I think she's an INTP. She asked, what effect do the socials have on overall introversion, extroversion? And so I'm combining that with this, where you have an extroverted social type and you're an extrovert. I have an introverted social type and I'm an introvert, with the consume sleep, you with the blast play. And then like how much it feels like you don't have real sleep and how much it feels that I don't have real play. Like even with the last interview we did, like you were dragging in the questions and I was like, all right, time to sleep energy. This I'm in the introverted mode being like, yeah. We got to preserve Dave's energy. I'm sorry, we can't do your questions, people. Like it's, I almost went that route, and I'm so glad you ended up saying, hey, I do have energy.
Just how I'm an idiot extrovert, right? Yeah, I do know what you mean. I noticed that. I do see that with clients, like somebody who's play last. I'm like, okay, that's saver sleep. Like I have sleep, but I wouldn't define myself according to comparing myself to somebody who's play last as saver sleep, because I do see exactly that, what you're saying, exactly that. My extrovertism just wrecks it. And then also we did notice, I remember years ago we were looking at this, that if the blast and play are next to each other, if the two extroverted or introverted ones, so my column, the sleep blast play, we're seeing in that scale in the data that they're usually more extroverted than the blast sleep plays. And so you would think the blast sleep plays would be as much or more extroverted, but they're not. The DI is one, and then of like not slowing down, worried about people. And then we do see consistently in the columns that if the blast and play are together in the top three, so if it's sleep blast play or blast play sleep, if you get those two extroverted functions together in the top three, you get a little extra burst of crack. Same with the two introverted functions together. So if you get them, like we'll see the play consume blast, they have a nice energy about them. Like they seem more like true ambiverts. Sure, they're sleep blast, but they're mellow. They got play consume, they're kind of hanging out. They'll turn up the jets when they need to, and they'll calm down when they need to. And we'll see that when you kind of stagger the introvert extroverted animals, But yeah.
Shout out to Sam, personal trainer guy. He's the SCFE. I don't know if you remember him.
Sam, tell me who?
He's SCFE, play consume blast. Samuel Gyasi. He's a personal trainer. He had muscles. I think you complimented his.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He had muscles and stuff. Yeah. He's play consume blast. He's got a good
muscles. The guy with the muscles? Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, we got other play consume blast people, of course.
Yeah.
It's good seeing the ambivert energy. It's just like, and even there, like they have the consume as a savior, so they can kind of lean in. They know what introverted energy is like a little bit. And so, and it's in the middle, so it's kind of conscious and.
That's been a fun one. Defining introvert extrovert is not a holy grail, but it's a pretty big one. Big Five messes around with it. Myers-Briggs has always messed around with it. Carl Jung, you got introvert extrovert. It's right up there with masculine and feminine. So yeah, it was this last year that we finally really got final answer on it. That's what I call it. Okay, final answer. Put that on the masculine TISI. We can finally define what an introverted or extroverted person is, and knowing all the little nuances and being able to get that really, really good. So I've been very happy about that one, being able to know what the hell's going on there.
Yeah. I'm just getting a little bit of I have my own NI on introvert extrovert, which is like, yes, I think what you guys have is like one definition of it.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that introvert extrovert. It's kind of a I have a bigger NI. I need to make I made one video on entropy, but I have a grand NI on all the coins.
Yeah.
All
Right.
the coins is basically low entropy or high entropy,
Right.
where
Because it.
feminine is like high entropy,
Yeah.
masculine is low entropy. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
the OIDI is low entropy. Uh, I'm too slow with the blast to do the video on it, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of where my NI is heading. And I see with introversion, extroversion, you kind of have that component with almost
All the
every coin
letters.
in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. Totally. So it's
yeah,
and you can almost like we've looked at it like masculine, feminine, and or introvert, extrovert. So for example, sensory. It's just like it's like we all kind of almost like intuitively know this. They have like sensory versus intuition. Which one's masculine? Which one's feminine? You're like, ooh, intuition is feminine. Like, I don't even know that. Okay,
yeah,
sensory versus masculine. Which one's extroverted? Gosh, sensory is extroverted. How did you know that? Like, I don't know. It's like all the letters, all the animals, all the coins seem to do that. With the introvert extrovert thing, what I find when I'm talking with people, I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go. But hold on, are you ready to go? The amount that you're going to have to define your terms is about. Are you talking about an introvert extroverted person? Are you talking about a coin? Are you talking about their energy? Are you talking about their point of view of themselves? Like, there's so many different ways to dive in and define introvert extrovert. But having that final one of like, I can tell you what an introvert or extrovert person is, and then as if that, depending on their last animal, it's the introvert animal last, therefore the voids are leaving or XYZ. But
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting though that seeing that it does, just like you look at science, it's like you get down the molecules, it's just like the same electrons and protons doing the same kind of shit, the same thing that planets are doing. It's just a big fractal. But it's built off of like really, really simple parts that are almost like repeating themselves. Like noticing like the core coins seem to be like, I don't know if it's introvert, extrovert, or masculine, feminine. I think it's one of the two. So masculine, feminine is just introvert, extrovert, or introvert, extrovert is just masculine, feminine. And then it then spirals into the letters, which is still those core, and then the functions, and then the animals. But it's still the same introvert, extrovert, or masculine, feminine kind of concept repeating itself in
yeah.
higher complexities. Does
I'm
that?
right there with it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense to me, but I'm afraid of losing the audience. So we'll continue on. I don't know. I wonder how the audience is doing. So let us know in the chat if you found
I found the comment section. I'm in the
if you
private chat. I'm like, oh, there's nobody there.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
There's two
the
tabs,
private
so I
chat.
run for the wrong one.
Great. Yeah, that's the low play one, right? The
Yeah.
one when there's no one there. Um, yeah, so the next question I want to ask, while we're on the topic of like the nerdy stuff, let's talk about the accuracy spectrum. So you have ST third, and this is something that you care about. Like I can see you're wanting to nail down the ST of things. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm not just bullshitting anymore. Like this isn't just NF hippie, Myers-Briggs stuff.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of me existing and building the system is so we can get some accuracy on this because these patterns, they're helping us in the business, since day
Yeah.
one. And so like we need to actually show you that this is legit. And so well, there's that side, but really what I want to ask you, whatever you wanted to dive in. I know last time you're like, it would be great to dive into that. So maybe this is the opportunity to dive into like accuracy, maybe on the social type or
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
but just the accuracy spectrum, like what's your ST report of the
Yeah.
day? Yeah.
Of tell me more of like what we're getting here for our numbers or what we're seeing on.
Yeah. What you're seeing on well, I would say like for your numbers, like with let's say Dave and Michael or whoever else you're typing with, and
Yeah.
sorry, not Dave and Michael, Shan and Michael,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like just the ST of like, hey, the accuracy. All right, this week we're 91%. All right, last week we're 85 or
Yeah.
95 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Um,
Yeah. So yeah, I could totally talk about that. So it's definitely been one of those things of like as the years roll on, it's just getting easier and easier to kind of just let the process go. So we'll have ups and downs and ebbs and flows. So it's like, for example, and we had talked about this, or I talked to the community about this when I did some retyping last year of like in was it 2020 or 2021? Like we had a really busy year. We're hiring the editor. So it's like typing the clients like went way down to a lower priority. I remember the price tag was like $29. It's like all you're getting is like an email of your type and screw off, And so it's like it's just like with the workouts or whatever. It's like some years you're like, man, I'm just going to barely do the bare minimum, and then other years are going to get way in shape. But as long as like it's a priority in life, it really over the long term, it's just like it's just still going up, even though we'll have ups and downs. So it's like sometimes we'll take a run of going like we'll get really intense of like, all right, let's check our numbers and everybody really pay attention. Like when Michael was learning typing, what year is it? 2023. I guess it was no, it was last year. So it was, I guess it was about this time last year. So we were like way on, and we had cast, we had the editor. So we were just like, everybody's crunching our numbers and everybody's paying attention. And then you just kind of get burnt out of it. You're like, okay, great. So the numbers are high, and you start to see who has a hard time with what coins or what procedures or whatever. And then you just kind of drop back down to autopilot. But then like your baseline is still higher, you know?
Yeah. What can you share like any actual numbers? Like what what do the numbers look like on
With
a
me
high
and
week, on a
Shan,
low week?
with me and Shan, there, we've had like, I think it was only like 20 something people this last month. And I can't think of, I think we might've had, no, we had that one right. I think there was 2 or 3 where we had a question on a coin that we talked out with each other, something like that. But it's just like with her and I, they're like just way right on, and we're typing at like different times, different places, you know, different schedules. So we just use the Google Doc thing where I'll put in, you know, I'll type. Usually sometimes I'll type a couple days ahead of her. And so like I'll put my type down and I'll put it on a different doc, or I'll put it on the main doc and then just highlight it white, and then she comes over and looks at it later. But it's just one after another now. It's just been like, oh yeah, she's like, yeah, that's the same one that I've got. So it's gotten to be very kind of calm and consistent with her and I. Now with Michael, his typing has gone a little bit different, where he was trying to keep up with me and Shan each month. So he was trying to like, her and I would be kind of blazing through the list. And so he was just trying to get like 1 or 2 coins on each person. And so now he's kind of got, you know, burnt out, just going too fast, you know, because for Shan and I, we can just spend an evening and just watch one client and then like have enough and like, okay, I get their type figured out. But if you're in training, you got to like watch that client for like a week, you know, or a few days. You got to like watch them again, sleep on it, watch them again. And so now what Michael's doing is he's now just picking a couple of clients per month. And I told him like, hey, pick according to your FI, like cozy up and who do you want to hang out with for 5 days, you know? So look for somebody you don't hate, you know? And so he'll pick a client or 2 and deep dive and just kind of use them for practice. And then he'll tell me later. Usually he'll just tell me, he's like, oh yeah, I got these coins right on this client or whatever. So I don't even see his notes right now. So he's just working on it himself. But overall, it's definitely going up, and as well as seeing that in the community, like yourself as well, seeing more people like yourself that are getting it. The thing that's been surprising is the social types, but again, I haven't got out an Excel spreadsheet and like track the numbers on this, nor will I anytime soon. I have so many other fucking things I got to track right now. But I am just anecdotally seeing with the social types, when it comes to my best guess, and the client's best guess of themselves. I'm usually not bugging Shan for the social type. Sometimes her and I will write it in, like we'll have to put a thing on the doc where we write in their type. And then sometimes we'll put number 3 question mark. And sometimes we'll put it, sometimes we don't, but we're not like, hey, you got to spend another hour and see if you can, like, fuck it. If you can get it, great. If not, don't worry about it, you know? But I'm always looking with the clients where a lot of times I'm seeing in their docs. I do love that, where there's a question on the Google Docs is like, what type do you see yourself and why? And people are really good at like putting coins or types, or they'll add in their social type. I would say, kind of talking it out loud, where I've had my focus has largely recently been, now that I'm saying this, is like, it's recently been between me and the clients is what I've been looking at. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to. So what I've been doing is I'll usually watch the videos early in the morning. And so the way that we have the Google Doc stuff come in is all the information comes in, and we'll grab their video, their name, their doc, their number, and they'll all go on like a master sheet. And I'll have like a Dave column, a Shan column, and that's where we all work from there. And so when I go into Sally's video, it's like I have a thing where I can click on her video, and then a thing I can click on her doc, and then it has like her name and her picture there. And so I'll just go in and I'll just click on her video, and then I'll open up the larger video, look for the 2-hour one if it's there. And then I'll crank it to the fastest speed I can, depending how fast they talk. And then I'll just play the whole damn thing. And usually I'll have something else to do. I'll get some images for a class or whatever, just some kind of peel potatoes kind of thing, so I don't go fucking mad. And I'll watch the whole goddamn thing. And then at the end, I like to go, okay, now let me go into Sally's doc. and now let me see. Or at the end of the video, at times there's questions. Sometimes some people say, some people don't. What type you see yourself and why? And so I'm comparing against that. In that instance, I've been seeing a big uptrend of, I'm seeing most people now are getting their type pretty damn close and very right on with their social type. And I don't want to say most of the time, but it's most of the time with the social type. People are getting their social types right. And they're getting their types not all fucked up, you know? And even the ones that are getting it fucked up, it'll make sense. Like they'll have like masculine NIFI and they'll but those are demons or whatever. So they're like, I'm this. I'm like, I think you're looking at your masculines. Like, oh, that makes sense. That's the other thing too. And then when I send out the audios, I'm also seeing a larger percentage of people that are going, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. There's not the freak out that we used to have in the early years where everybody's, you know, way disagreeing or way off or we're way off or whatever. So that is the one that's been most, again, back to like the baseline is kind of moving up. So that's what I've seen. It's been funny too to see, if I'm talking too long here, let me know. It's been funny to see 1.5. That's for noobs. You got to crank that up to, you got to be pushing too. I've been, it's been interesting to see where the brain will hide what coins. And so I'll see this on myself where I'll get a client and like, I like the more, as soon as you say, oh, I'm having a hard time seeing this coin, you're done. Like your brain's like, I am. It's just like the reverse secret, or like, I hope I don't hit the pole. Like, and you just like that. Like, so there'll be, if we get stuck, or if one of us gets stuck on a client, it's usually we just spin it all the way in the fucking ground. And like, if you go into a death spiral with somebody's coin or type, like you got to have your partners pull you out. You're like, hey, idiot, this. You're like, and then all of a sudden you can see it, you know? And seeing that with clients as well, it's always been fascinating. I'm always asking myself, like, where does the person's psychology allow themselves to see themselves accurately, and then where are they not allowed to see that part of another part of themselves, and why? And it's been fascinating to see where that lands. We're trying to see if I can understand or predict patterns or what it is. But largely I'm seeing more people are seeing more of themselves. And then the social type being one that most people's brains don't try and hide that from you. That's the one that I was talking about earlier. That's the one I'm still like going, wow, that's really crazy. That for most people's brains, they're like, yeah, here's your social type. I'll tell you, I won't make a bullshit up. But if like back in the old days, S versus N, you have to be an INFJ or else you suck. And then you got to deal with that, you know?
Yeah. So that's really good. So just like on that thread of the social typing, right? Going through more clients, you know, I've actually, you know, by some miracle or whatever, I've like talked to like 20 to 25 people in the last month or so about their social type and stuff like that. What new patterns are you seeing with people, specifically with them like processing their social type, and like just kind of maybe the positive side of it, of like, you know, we could have kept this a secret for a year, but instead we came out with it, and you know what, it's actually helping people, or like what are you going through, or the darkness of it, what are you going through with the clients you've been working with?
We did keep it secret for a year.
Yeah.
We did. But yeah, it seems to be a really good thing that people are like, they're like, oh, I'm a 4. Okay, so let's get on with it. So what do I got to specialize in? It's just that they roll right onto, and that's where I'm trying to always like get people on the Dave audios or whatever. It's like, hey, can we figure out what side is up? Because you got a bigger problem than is what the hell do you want to do? You got to get moving in life. You can't just be sitting here staring at your parts. Do I have this or do I have that? You have both, and you're behind on both. So what's the plan here? You know, so people seem to see it really well. They don't seem to have a lot of questions. I don't know if it's people talking on the community or the videos we've done or the write-ups or whatever, or I think a lot of it is also kind of intuitively loaded in all of us. You know what I mean? I kind of feel that. I feel like when we tell people like, hey, these social orders and 1, 2, 3, 4, everyone's like, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, my mom. Yeah, that, like, there's just a lot of, feels like kind of monkey nap energy for people where they kind of like, they don't have a lot of questions compared to like the animals back in the days or whatever. There's a lot of arguing or, you know, I don't understand. There's not a lot of that. And it seems to be a lot of like I'm seeing people kind of moving on to the next step and self-reflecting, and they're like, huh, so I think I need to change jobs. They're just like right onto that, that's to me, it's like that's the finish line I'm trying to get to. Like the put on my hazmat suit, tell somebody their type, wrestle with all their fucking vomit and arguing and no, you got me wrong and all that shit. And then once the smoke settles, then like take it off. Like, okay, so you're just as screwed as I am. How can I help you? How can you help me? What do we want to do about this? Where do you want to go? What changes do you have to make in your life? Start waking up to, wait, what is consume last? Oh, you're not resupplying self. You're like, oh, you know. So, anyways, I don't know if that's answering your question, but that's kind of the vibe I'm seeing of it. It's definitely getting not worse. It's definitely getting better.
No, that's really good. It's good to see the evolution of how people are receiving things. I have somewhere on here on one of the additional questions something about like an 11-headed Hydra or something like a
Yeah,
Frankenstein creation,
I saw that. Yeah,
where going from 9 to 11 coins, it does seem like yes, I think people are getting used to it on one level,
yeah,
but on another one, I think people. All right, this is kind of the kind of masculine punch
yeah.
is just that like, hey, some people are kind of sick of this shit.
Don't ask
you know,
me.
you know what I mean? Like on on some level, there is that NF too, but like it's still like a trying to tame this monster into a problem, and that's what you're going
Dude,
over
I
last
wanted it
time.
too. Like I'm NI.
Um,
I want there to be two types.
yeah, for
Just
me, it's like low entropy, high entropy. That's it.
that.
Like it's that's my that's the NI I'm
I don't
going
even
off
want
of at this
16.
point.
That's too much to deal with. So what
But
I
it seems
yeah.
like one step back to go like two steps forward. Like you do have to do this monkey nap, and I think it's really hard. Like in terms of for the social type, it's gone to 11. We're here, 2048 or whatever. Like I don't know what you want to say, but
I
like
can tell you, yeah, I can tell you what I did
yeah,
because I definitely
go
got.
for it.
I'm like, there's no way. You're pushing it. I tell the story. We got the website domain tribe 128, and then there was 256 and 512. So it's like I'm more than tapped out at 128. Like fuck 256 and 512. It's way too much. So once it was like 512 times 4, I'm not even gonna pull out my calculator and I don't even want to know it. Like consume last, I don't even want to know. It's too much. I ain't going there. I can't do it. I can't manage it. So what I did, and I didn't like, I don't care about this too much, but it's like, on my willy-nilly time, I was like, so what I think it was when I was writing the ebook. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to get an answer for this.
Yeah.
And so I think where I'm at for myself, just so I can get clarity in my own mind, not that somebody doesn't go into however many coins there are, is I've gone to saying that there's 128 and then different add-ons because I need to start adding space that, okay, the trend is so far that we're not done. And then you're kind of like looking at people and you're like, yeah, probably aren't done either. There's a whole nother thing that I kind of have my eye on with the looks like thing. Like we'll see people of the same type and these will look the same and these will look the same and they're the same type, and then the social types are all kind of mixed in. It's like, is there something there with the looks like, and then how do you define that? That gets very subjective, but I feel like there might be another coin or two out there to discover in our lifetime, so I don't want to like lock down the numbers. So but what I am starting to see, because the like, here's something I'd love to talk about. Like, how did we come up with the socials? Like, where did that come from? So that was just like that was we fast tracked the method that had unlocked the other coins over the years. And so literally the social things happened really, really fast in less than a year, because it was like we started to see, okay, people of the same type seem to be different. You have like Big Ramy and what's his name, 1 and a 4, and they're both the same fucking type and they're both bodybuilders. Like, how do we explain this? We're seeing this all over the place. And so then you're just kind of writing down like friendly, not so friendly. So you're kind of throwing responsible. I don't know. It's kind of a weird word. Like, so you're just kind of like throwing out some words and you're like, I bet you there's 4 words. So you're just kind of like, you got to make 4. So you're getting rid of this one and can we merge this one? And then you're kind of playing around with the 4. And then the next phase is, so those are probably in coins. And you're like, okay, so I don't know, these 2 are coins and these, like just starting with the Punnett square and just making it fit in that math, just assuming maybe this math is right. Maybe it's following the same thing. And then from there going, oh, this seems to be following the same math as the sexuals. So then I'd go over to the sexual math and write like, okay, so you have masculine sensory equals audio kinesthetic. And then, so there's all this dynamics of double feminine and the modalities, and there's all these different wires and cross checks. So I wrote out all the sexuals. I just saw this on my doc the other day, like down in the notes section where I was trying to figure it out. And like, you write it all out and then like you do another table and you just do X's and Y's. and then you take the social definitions and you try and get them to fit in the exact same math as the sexuals. Just to guess, just maybe it is, maybe the socials are defined this way, and maybe they happen to follow the exact same math as the sexuals follow, which is a little bit different than the functions and the letters. And so then you're like, I don't know, I'm an idiot like everybody else. That Enneagram, that looks right to me. I see a pattern. Like, great. Go stare at a fucking cloud. I see a giraffe. What do you see? Like, you see any patterns you want anywhere. Like, that does, like, people like have a hard time. Like you can see any patterns you want anywhere. Can you define it and your buddy see it repetitively over time with predict? Like, that's a whole nother. So I'm like, okay, just yeah. What?
The scientific process. Okay, just saying that, like, one of the biggest discoveries for ops isn't the types itself, it is the process.
Right.
Honestly, like, one of the questions I kind of skipped over a little bit when I was talking about the terms page, because that's like my favorite, was you had a writing process. Now that's something new. We don't have to talk about that too much unless you want to, but that's something I wanted to ask about. But like, there's something, you know, I have NI last, I'm processing last, right? Like, in terms of the OI level. But it seems like that's like one of the major discoveries. Like, yeah, you can look at the 11 coins or whatever types, like, but really, or even 2 coins, but that's not really it either. What, you know, Dave and Shan have really discovered here is a process for psychology.
Yeah.
So like, how's that like, like how is that the real discovery?
Right. That's why I'm like, yeah, this is what I'd actually like to talk about, is like, hey, how the hell did you guys pull fucking socials out of your hat in 2022 or whatever? It's like, yeah, running it through the same process and going back to the same math, and then quickly now seeing, oh, well, so it looks like, and then the ebook thing really shows it really well, and I was glad to be able to get the sexuals in the ebook at the last minute. But if you really go over the ebook thing and you see the little proton electron math of the introvert, extrovert, and the functions, the way they kind of come together, that whole series of math makes sense all the way down to 128. And then you have the 128, and then you start layering on the sexuals and the socials, and the sexuals and the socials follow the same math on top of the 128. So you're like, oh, that's very distinct and very clear. So you have the 128 that comes down through all this series of math, starting with introvert, extrovert, and letters that create functions, that create animals, that creates the 128. Now you leave that block alone. And now you bring in your 4 sexual versions according to this math, and then you bring in your 4 social types according to the same math as the sexuals. And that's when I'm like, okay, now that those 2, now you got 2. You get the sexuals and the socials follow the exact same math, and there might be some other overlap in there that Shani and I are looking at, where the sexuals have a cross reference of if a person really does have masculine sensory, then you should see the modality of audio kinesthetic, and so there's like a double cross check there with the modalities. And so we're looking at with the socials, there might be another layer there as far as like how people express themselves or something like that. Like, there might be something else there that we might still be able to find here. So we're kind of still looking at that. But anyways, it's following the same, like, if it's in this math, if you see it in this math, then where is it in this math? Well, if the sexuals have this modality overlap on top of the math of the functions, then where's that in the socials? Oh, maybe that's, love languages or something. Like, there might be something there. So the math can keep telling you to check, So, but then you can do that with any series of inputs of, random coins or definitions or whatever. And that's why, like, our in process, let me just start with that. Like, we're talking about the whole process. The in process is SE of, like, or SETE. What is the tribe saying? It's the thousands of hours of watching fucking videos nobody wants to do. Watching client videos all fucking month. Like, I watch like 2 a day, like all month, every day, plus all the class stuff. So I'm just like forced to listen to the tribe's bullshit all fucking day for years. And you just end up hearing the same thing in the same words. It's like, I'm not trying to NE it. I'm just trying to just catch the sensory. And I was like, I don't know. I have a lot of these words. I hear these words a lot. Clunk. And then they start to cluster. And then you see those words clustering in certain types, and then types within types. And then you're like, all right, stop. Because they just start clustering each other, because all this data that you're bringing in, it just starts to clump itself. Then you run it through a proposed math, and you feel good about yourself because your math makes sense and it makes all the words fit. And then you go to the final stage, and that is like training your partner. And that's like back to like the guy that had the first helicopter. It's like, which helicopters are like impossible to fly, by the way. Like if anybody does it, it's because they're a warlock. Like, how do you hover a helicopter? It's so hard to do. So then like,
Yeah.
how does the first guy that it literally takes 3 months to learn how to hover a helicopter? How does he know he's got the controls right? He's like, well, I've worked on it for 2 months. I've almost killed myself. I certainly must have the controls wrong. No, you have the controls right. It just takes 3 more months to learn how to fly. Like, how would you know? So it's like, even if you had the code right, doesn't mean you and your partner, you know, like you see with the people in the community, like, hey, the math works. Like, I've been trying to type for a year and I can't do it. It's like, yeah, well, same with me. I don't even know if it was right or not. So like, then you got to pass that next stage and go, all right, I can see it everywhere, but can Shan see it everywhere? You know, at least Shan. I'm always looking.
Yeah.
I'm always looking to just see at least Shan, or if I can get one other person. You know, I'm not looking if I can. Everybody on the groups agree. I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, I gotta just make sure one person, and then we got to stack. For me, it's got to be from watching Darren Brown. It's got to be at least 20, because I saw Darren Brown flip 10 heads in a row. And I'm like, okay, you can't even trust 10 in a row anymore. You're like, I got 10 in a row. You're like, that could also be just completely random. So I got to see at least 20. Although once I see 20 and 80% of those are right, that's when I start to go, okay, I think we might have something here. Now let's come back around and then see what we got. Maybe we got to tweak it or whatever. And then it takes off.
I'm going to ask one question here. I'm going to go to the restroom, but this is a big one this question is about hiring. So I want to ask you about, so you're going to be looking to hire people or whatever. You're already doing that. You're already, you know, in the process of hiring. You've been in the the small scale for, you know, a long time, and now you're with OPS at least, and now you're trying to scale up. And what is it that you're kind of looking for that next person? I don't know that you're wanting to talk about that here, but like just sharing even like the positive vision, whether you're hiring them or they're just looking forward to the future of ops and the way you're running things. Like, what is the vision? What is the positive future? Like, hey, they're going to go work there. They have this to look forward to. Yeah, they're going to have to crawl through mud. They're going to have to go through all the crap. And but other than that, like, what is the kind of like positive vision and mission that they're signing up for?
Sure.
If they were to work and pick up a shovel over at your place.
Yeah. I can rant on that if you want to take off. Yeah. So with hiring, it's we're working backwards from just trying to make it very normal, like a normal business startup. So it's a very, as scary as it is, there's still a very common thing. It's fun watching the videos on like the beginnings of YouTube and Google, and how, you know, the YouTube lady was working in the garage of the Google guys and all that kind of stuff, or the other way around. Like, they lived in her garage. And so they talk about like Susan or whatever her name was. She's like, they're like, and she was employee number 16, which is to us, it's like, oh my gosh, if you can get 16 employees, that business would be huge. And they're like, that doesn't even count until you're like at 50 or 100 or whatever. So it's like, to get the first couple of people in any startup is just impossible. You're in a garage, you're digging in the mud, it's the hardest grind, sleeping under your desk, eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches. You know, like, we're literally not there anymore. Like, those times have all passed, which is highly unfortunate for everybody who comes here next, because you're like, oh, you're now here when all the hard stuff is over. So it's like that person's ownership is just getting depleted because all the hard stuff is getting done, because Dave and Shan are getting older and we're getting it done. So it doesn't matter. This is like how all of the businesses are. They have some kind of a story, some beginning story, and it just feels like different sound waves that they got to break through, of getting the first person, the second person, the third, the fourth, then the first 10 and the first 20, and then it starts to scale up from there. Then it starts to exponentially go. But anyways, most businesses die in the first 7 to 10 years. They die before they ever get to 10 employees. So it's a very natural, normal, extremely hard resistant spot that we're at right now. And so everybody's like staring at my face. Dave, what do you want? Tell me what you want. Tell me what to do. I'm like, hey, I'm here just like everybody else, trying to just figure out what to do as well. Like, I can't be your boss yet, or your mommy. I'll get there once I can have managers and managers of managers and employees and 401ks and plugins and you're late today. Like, we can play the babysit game. Like, oh, I will play the babysit game once we get past 50. I can't be your babysitter right now. I'm like, what just happened today? I got to go fix it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have a boss to go to. So it's like, you can't you can't ask somebody to do that, because that's what we learn real quick as soon as somebody shows up. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Like, whoa. You need to come back in a few years when we have all the hard work done, where you can just sit there scared and just move one lever, you know? So that's how you scale. We'll get there. So it's a very much kind of a thing of like, the person has got to they got to be able to see it for themselves, want it for themselves, because it's not something you can really ask somebody to do. You can't ask somebody to be a part of the first 10 founders or whatever, because it's nothing but extreme ownership, doing stuff that sucks, doing whatever it takes, systems for building systems. You got to be able to get your stuff taken care of fucking fast, because you got to run and go help everybody else, you know? So kind of where we're at is we stay really busy because we have so much to do on our own stuff. Like, I don't have my stuff enough together, you know, and same with Shan, same with Michael. So we still have quite a few months, I'd say, of kind of getting our own stuff together. But then we're starting to see that, like, when we start to get offensive about it, like actually start to do hiring and going on the offense, I tell you one thing we see, and this makes so much sense, like in real business world, that like you can't hire somebody for $20 an hour. You can't hire them for $4,000 a month. It goes from like you're either just like on an Uber Lyft app, you know, where you're getting paid very little, or you're getting paid $200,000 a year. This is what like Alex Hermosi and Layla, especially Layla, she talks more about this than he does. But watching a lot of them, they really kind of reveal that same kind of thing of like, yeah, just don't even bother with somebody who isn't worth $200,000 in the early days, in the early stages. So it's like, realize like, how the hell am I going to get, like, I don't have that kind of money because I haven't hired. He's one of these loops, you know, like how the hell are you going to pay somebody that kind of money? Don't have anybody. But it's like, you got to have somebody. It's an identity, and a lot of it's experience as well. Definitely learning that lesson, that like, it's like you can train some people to edit, sure, but it's going to take you 2 years. You're going to be way behind. You're going to be doing the editing plus training them. So your editing time is going to double. So you're going down for 2 years, and you're paying them money. And then by the time they get it, they quit anyways. And you're kind of caught in that kind of loop. So it's not that you can't win in that direction, you know, but it's just very hard to do that kind of stuff. So one thing that we're starting to use the code a little bit for hiring, and just kind of where I'm at now is what I'm seeing is like kind of doing the job interview process from afar, from when, and you see this in movies. Like, I don't know why people don't fucking get this joke. Like, I don't see anybody getting the joke, but it's like, it's the biggest joke. It's like the interview process is not when you sit down at the desk with your little LinkedIn bow tie and you have your resume and you answer the questions. This isn't a fake personality test. Like, the interview process has already started and ended on how you parked your car in the parking lot, and were you late or not? And did you bother the attendant lady? Did you make it her problem? Did you harass the secretary? You know, it's like all these little things the boss is going, oh fuck, one of these shitheads. It's already over. And like, people don't know the game has already started. And it's like, well, you can't like fake it. Like, you have to like be the identity already leading up, and therefore the identity is leaving breadcrumbs. The identity is leaving experience. So it makes sense, like coming full circle, of why companies are like, hey, just show me or let me know what you've been doing the past few years. I'm like, oh, I'm the type of person that takes problems and solves them, and I do some editing, I do this, and I do that. And so they're leaving a track record of that. So seeing that, and therefore their market value is just higher and higher. So seeing that we've got to be able to prioritize not only making enough money for ourselves, but we got to have like a ton of money left over to hire somebody that is a high value person that has a lot of experience, has a lot of things done. Because you're getting that trade-off of either you got to train the person for 2 years, or you're paying them more money to say, I want to pay you more money so I don't have to train you. You know what I mean? Because in the early days, I'm like, oh, I'll just train them. I'm fucking exhausted. I don't want to train everybody on fucking everything. I'd rather just pay way more money because the universe has already trained them and paid them, you know?
Yeah. In the engineering world, it's very much the case. Like, you know, you pay someone like twice or 3 times the amount, and you get like 10 times the work out of one person. Not only that, but like the systems, like it feels like 10 times, but it's actually like 100 times.
I know, right?
Effective.
It really is. That's what I'm saying.
You don't have to redo their work. Yeah.
That's the sad thing is the difference. It's not a slow curve. That's I thought it would be, but it's like you have normal people, then you have these power players up here, and there's just nobody in the middle. Now there are some people that that what I am seeing, and probably where I'm going to try and, because you know me, I like to cheat. I'm like, okay, I don't want to wait 10 years and that's why they get funding. So like, I need funding. Why? They're going to pay $1 million to get a kid to fucking edit, not fuck it up. That's why. So it's like, it's like, I'm like, all right, sure. If we got to do that, fine. But I'm also going, can I find a way to get lucky? Like with Michael, we got lucky. That's why it's hard to scale that. So I'm like, can I get lucky again? And so I'm trying to like use the code to cheat a little bit and go, okay, so what, if you could see, so you see a power player that's worth a lot of money and they've got to be usually 30 years old or something like that because they have all these years of experience. And you're like, okay, so if I would have caught him at 19 or 21 or 22, you know what I mean? Because a lot of it is kind of an identity thing. The person has already decided. They already decided they want to be this type of person. And so they're coming in with an aggression. They're coming in with an identity. They're coming in with, they're coming in loaded and they're looking at you going, can I use this as an opportunity to grow? If they're coming in just scared, like you can beat scared out of somebody, And so what I'm seeing is like when Shanny and I will go out, like a lot of times when we go out, it's for some personal time, but it's also like to watch the waiter or watch the person or watch the person at the job, because you'll see people that are like Chick-fil-A is a good example. Like there's a lot of kids there. They're really, really young, though. They feel like they're teenagers. But you can see the ones, which are a lot of them, that are just head on a swivel, very awake, very aware, really love their job, really driven. And that just seems to be a kind of thing that you can see a young 21-year-old working at Chick-fil-A. You're like, oh, that's going to be a millionaire by the time they're 30, just because of that identity. So really learning that, just really finding that it's just a total different game that I haven't been working on, trying to find and network with the right people, find and get in the way of people that are already doing it, so they've got to be driving it. That might be a little bit all over the place, but cool. Anyways, it's going to be on our to-do list more so as we get more of our own shit together,
Great. I'm going to move into questions from people.
Sweet.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So yeah, the first question is on social types. Oh, and wait. Before we get into it, I just want to say something about the whole like vision thing. Just the thing about like the new employee stuff. There's something that I feel like the number one is doing, like the number one CEO type person.
Yeah.
I think there's something a little bit more on the vision, mission, that kind of thing. Like that's why I keep asking you about that. There's something like people don't want to just sign up to, like, yeah, they get what you do, but they need to hear it again and again.
I know.
30 times. Like it's just like weird thing that happens. Like you see it in corporate, I think, but like
I refuse to do the flex. Yeah.
Totally.
I do see that.
Yeah.
I do see that. Yeah, real quick on that. I do see that. I am aware of that. I had to really work on my specialization in the past year, like the writing and stuff like that. And now I'm like, I see flex and I'm like, ooh, that's what I did in the RC days when I did the RC channel. I got 100 million views and then burned myself out. Is like, I went all in, like, what's this? I'm young 20-year-old Dave or 26-year-old Dave. And like went all in on flex. I'm going to be the best YouTuber in the RC space, blah, blah, blah. And then just, straight up, straight down. So like, I've tasted that. I know what that is. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. Not yet. I'm going to get all my other shit in order. Cause I know like when you turn on the jets of flex, which I can do, it's exhausting. I think it's cheesy. I don't like doing it. I want to kick my own ass. But I definitely am like, I feel it's just like, I'm building a business around every, it's like you see those pictures where there's like the freeway and there's like the one house in the middle that hasn't been developed yet. It's like, or the trees and there's like the one little thing. So I just feel like I'm growing everywhere else, but like stuck and not growing here. And so I'm like, all right, I gotta get everything up to this until this is ridiculous. And then it's like, all right, I'll do it. Let me turn on the flex. Yeah. Let me turn on the all that kind of shit and get it moving. So just real quick, that's what's great about being stuck on an objective hamster or a conveyor belt. That you can go ahead and not grow. I'll grow there later. Oh, that's fine. You can do it later. Do it later. It's fine. Do everything else. It builds the Pee Wee Herman stakes. Like, okay, so you're stuck. You're not moving forward. You have nothing else to do. And then that's where you get to a point where you're like, I have nothing else. I can't make the water machine any better. I have nothing else to do. I have to do this. So I'm kind of like forcing myself into that situation. So I have nothing else to do but that.
For sure. Yeah,
that's why Shanny's doing the live show.
Last resort. Yeah.
Doing live. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. Get out of the way. I'll do the flex.
Shan's got it covered. Yeah. She's doing it. Great. So speaking of socials and doing business, let's talk about how you can elaborate on how threes do business. You just mentioned about the step-by-step. Yeah, I mean, and I had a question as well that I didn't get into, which was like the quintessential wisdom or advice that twos have. So, like, can you walk through like a little bit of the two versus three in business?
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Yeah, tell a good story with about me and my dad. My dad's a three. Um, so my dad, he's a three. He's a general contractor in the Bay Area, and so the way that I saw him build his business is like he kind of just did it a step at a time. So the way I look at it is like the number two is walking into a business and going, "There's 50 departments," and like instantly I can't help but see all 50 departments, and then just run around. And that's just how I define my life: is I'm just running around to the 50 departments, which is why they're all burning down. I can't get any one of them done. And so the threes, goddamn their souls, is they'll come in, they're like, that one. And they'll just like specialize on one. And I'm like, hey, fuck you. What about all the other 49? You're leaving me out here. So like the twos and threes like fight each other like crazy. But then also like they need each other. And so, but so it's not that a two can't build a business or a three the other way. So the way I saw my dad do it as a three is he just seemed to kind of like, I don't know how he did it, but he picked one and like just did 2 years of like just plumbing. And then he picked electrician and just did 2 years of electrician and then picked carpentry and then 2 years. So you had them in the right order. And he just like went down the line and did them all in order. And so when you meet my dad now, he's retired now, but like if you were to meet him 10 years ago, like he would look like a number two. He's like general contractor, like anything in a house, subs, he do all of it. He can do all of it. And so he just looks like a number two, but he's not. He's done it one step at a time over time. And then just random things start to come back in my mind, like as I'm watching myself and Cody versus my dad and me, is like I give Cody a very chaotic childhood, like late hours and business meetings, and I can't go to your ball game. I got this thing. Like I'm one of those dads in the movie, like the business dad. And Cody's just like, oh, god damn, right? And like I'm like, my dad I did not grow up in an environment like that. My dad left every morning at 7:30. And he had, to this day, if you hang out with him, his alarm goes at 3:50. Like you're literally be hanging out at dinner and his alarm goes. You're like, he's an OI. He just likes to like show that off. He's also play last. So like he always is wrapping up his tools at 3:50. And like the customers would get so pissed all the time. He's like, fuck you. Because he's like, DI play last. Or he's just like, no, fuck you. I'm the best. What are you gonna do? Hire somebody else? Like he just got everybody by the balls. But then he would come home and he was always home at the same time, depending on traffic, and never worked on weekends. And so just created this extremely stable child life that I had. Because thank God he wasn't a number two, because he would have been all the shit I'm running Cody through. So I've been able to talk to quite a few of the people I've talked to recently have been threes. And I'm like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing my dad doing. And the threes that I'm talking to, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so they've been kind of going. So that's kind of where I've seen it so far. But as I get to know more people and talk to more people and listen to their stories and kind of build on it, I'll have better understanding and insights. But that's kind of where I'm at now. A quick question I saw about who gets their types wrong. I would say it's the people that are kind of just way off to begin with, where they're kind of getting everything wrong. They're very subjective. They're very subjective. The pattern I usually see is they're at home. They don't work. They don't have a pressure. And they've just kind of fallen into a subjective world, and everything's hard and everything's sad and everything's scary. And then it gets harder and harder to track reality. The more you're out in the world, getting beat up, doing shit you don't want to do, your fairy tales kind of get burned away. You got to be real careful when you get too much time off, you get too much weight off the bar, your brain gets really mushy. And then when objective reality comes in, it's too shocking. So it's usually what I see is the people that get their social types off, they have all their other types off, all their other parts off as well, usually. So
yeah, there's a somewhat related question. So how long does it take to type a client? I guess someone wants the ST on that.
Yeah. If it's an ESFP, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Depending on the type. So if it's an ENFP, where we've seen a million times and their video is really good, a lot of times it's like instantaneous, and then you're like, okay, let me just watch the whole thing, and just to make sure, just to do my job, just to make sure I get all the cross checks. Plus, I like to know their story. So when I give them an audio, I'm talking to the person rather than just the type. But a lot of times, depending on the type, it can be fast. Shan's better at that than me. Well, the masculine NT, she a lot of times she'll start with, she's like, I know this person's this type, and then she'll kind of do the work after, where I'm not as like slappy as her as that. So it's a spectrum. So some people it's really fast. It could be instantaneous if we have a lot of them on file. It could be on average, as I'd say, I'd say by the 20-minute mark, I have a pretty good idea. I've got them narrowed it, right? So a lot of times I'll type 20 minutes and I'll go take a break and then I'll wrestle. I'll play the rest of the chess game later, get that last coin. That's usually hard. I'd say within 2 hours or 2 hour video, which I'm playing fast. So within about an hour and a half, the videos that have been coming in have been great. That's been one that we've wrestled with. So the videos that people are giving us and the questions and the stories they go on, it helps us out a lot. And I think next year when we come back around 50 fucking departments and tune up the questions a little bit, I think that can help us type even faster and better. But you can't get the questions too good, because then people will answer them too directly, and then they're not in that trance, and they need to kind of dive into a story, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I totally get it.
Then there's always 3 clients at the end of the month, back to the Pee Wee Herman snakes, where it's just like, I'm like, and so at the end of the month, there's like 3, and that's usually very subjective of like, for whatever reason, my brain decided, I don't know their type, and then they'll take me 2 days. But on average, I'd say an hour and a half.
Just got through Grimes. That was one for me. It was
God,
just
that's a
like,
hard one.
I don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
I know, right?
That one was, yeah.
That's an advanced one, yeah.
The NF curveball of ST. But here we go. Here's a fun one from Emily about NF play. Now, I think behind all the fun, there's a serious question in there. It's about like NF plays creating a real world style reality show with the ops theme. Habib has covered. Joker's got stories. And I don't know. There's something about the Alpha Quadra, trying to make use of ops. It just seems like a joke. It's like an extroverted joke. Whereas for you, it's the terms page. It's this introverted joke. I made myself laugh. Great. But then NF play is like, hey, everybody should be laughing.
Yeah.
And this is all a joke. And I saw Elon Musk the other day, like, make fun of chess or something. And everyone in the comments are just like, yeah, of course, you're probably just saying that because you can't play. But it's just like, it feels like NF play is just making fun of reality. It's like, hey, reality is just this, But anyway. Maybe you have your own interpretation of what Emily's trying to say here.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the NEFE is what you're talking about. Yeah, that's definitely a thing that I find that we use in our tool belt of useful tools. Is I do like to see where somebody's masculine functions land, what their introverted functions are. Is that NF, introvert, NIFI, and then what is their currency? What is their extrovert? That's NEFE. And for me, that's the one all the way across the board that I have the hardest time relating to, because the other ones, I at least have one of the extroverted things. And to watch the ENT or the NTPs and the SFJs, it feels like, compared to us with SETE, I feel like we're just kind of casually observing, because I feel like we go to work when we get into our NIFI or whatever, or NT or whatever. Like we go to work over here. And then our extroverted functions are rather easy because you don't have to fuck with them. You're just kind of looking at it, go, oh, that's cool, right? But so I feel like the NEFEs are working in their play state. I feel like they're what's that person like? What do they value? Oh, well, my emotions got moved. Oh, that's interesting. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I see them. Is they're working when they're in play state, where we're kind of relaxing in our play state, and then we're working once we get into our introverted world or our ends. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah. But you definitely, if you had like a 4 different houses with the different quadras, God, that'd be very different. Yeah.
Speaking of which, like, wait, before I get into this one, I want to mention that, like, the 4 different houses, I have this like Gryffindor. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. This Gryffindor hoodie. No, there's the Harry Potter houses or whatever. There's what is it for social types? It seemed interesting. There's maybe you've gotten this question in your inbox by now by all the people emailing, but there's like choleric, melancholic, sanguine, and phlegmatic, and those seem to cross over perfectly with the social types.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird. Have you ever heard of those?
I kind of have, yeah. And I've seen stuff like this on the Bing images, which is kind of what we're looking for when we're suspecting we're onto something. Is we have like a deep belief that we're not seeing anything that isn't already there. So if we're seeing these objective patterns, they should be all over the internet in different ways, shapes, and forms. So yeah, at this point now, it's like Shan will be like, "Hey, take a look at this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool. Well, glad somebody's seeing it." And I'll just kind of move on. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you already had it with the kinesthetic audio, whatever that stuff.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Ask about flex in ones and threes. So just
Yeah,
so this is I had a conversation with her on this, Anna, um, and she is most likely a three, and she has her flex second that she likes to do about her art and things like that and graphic design, and she's very she has her standards there. She's specialized in that, and she knows she's
yeah,
good at it and that kind of thing. And she's blast first, play last, right? But anyway,
yeah,
so she's like specialized on specialized, and it's just like, but she's still flexing, but it's kind of this different style of flex, um, where she has it in the middle. She's using it to like kind of make sure everyone knows her specialty is this. Like, if you're gonna hire someone, you hire me,
yeah.
maybe kind of like your dad. And so like, how do you see the flex being different in the threes versus the ones?
I know I see the ones and threes, like kind of like three, like a miniature version of the ones. Just from my perspective, because the flex I'll see as a little intimidating, because like it feels like that's because I have that lower, and I'll see the advantage of having the flex because it's just kind of like they're kind of signing their name to something. They kind of want the award. It's something like if you watch like I'll start to notice like what I delete when I'm recording footage for a show. Like whenever like the actor is like, and they're on stage and they got this award, I'm like delete. I'm like I don't give a fuck what fucking awards they got or Oscars or whatever. But it's like the flexes I see that like there's some way, shape, or form they're taking something like that seriously, where they're trying to kind of compete with themselves and others, and it feels kind of like a very specific DI, because I'll think I'm like I'm doing that, I'm DI. I was like, no, no, I'm really not. I'm not. I'll like have these abstract standards as a DI. Like I'm gonna better myself, but it's like, god damn, if you can like get me to sign my name to, I'm gonna beat you at a go-kart race or something like. To get very specific, or like I'm going to be the best personality guy in the world. I'm going to show Jordan Peterson. I'll get him. Like I'm like, I don't. I'd rather be his friend. I don't want to like. I don't want to get like so. It feels like a tip of the spear. Where I get so good and so sharp. I'm like punching through. I'm going to get better because I'm going to knock the other guy out, or they need to give me validation or whatever. So I don't know. I see it as a for me, like having a third, I feel like it's like when I get my shit together, then I'm allowed to kind of go on the offense. Feels like kind of like on the offense a little bit. Anyways, that's I don't know. Like I'm only a few months ahead of everybody else, so I'm still trying to process it myself, trying to see it in myself. I think it's the same thing with like FE. Like once I was able to see the need of where I had to start doing FE in my life, that's when I really kind of fell in love with that function. I could see it. And so like I haven't yet really crossed the bridge in my own personal life of like really getting a passing degree in flex. So it's harder because I'm now like looking at it from up here rather than like from here because I haven't really gone through it yet. You know what I mean? So you probably know better than I would.
Speaking of helping you flex, I think we'll end with this last question from.
I want to get
Jesse
Sammy
here,
in there. I want to answer Sammy.
Okay.
I know her.
Okay, sure. We'll get that one in there after this. But okay, let's have you practice flexing. What's the next new thing for ops after the new site is up and running? So you already went down
Live
in
show.
Q&As, which
Live show and hiring.
great. And yeah, okay, good. Live show and hiring.
Yeah.
That's a nice quick answer, and we kind of already talked about that. So
yeah, great.
Get to
and Sammy.
Yep. This one or the next one?
Yeah, Sammy J. Yeah. Profiling criminals. Yeah, to identify somebody prior to a crime. God, I want to, but it's. I see. Gosh, I saw. I saw. We'll see kids come through, and they'll have very aggressive, violent tendencies, and I'll look on their doc, and there'll be people that have committed violent murders and stuff. And it's like, okay, so do I say something? Then who do I say it to? And what do you do? And maybe this kid's just going through a phase. And I know for even my own self and Michael, like having masculine FI and a male, like there could be a lot of like aggression and violent and crimes and stuff. It's definitely one of those things like it's where like it's so hard for us to not call the FBI when like there'll be crimes or shootings or murders and then they'll see the suspect or whatever. And we're like, oh, that's so and so type. That's he's doing it because of this. Like there's like so much we want to say, and they're like, we're gonna autopsy their brain. Why would they do this? We're like, oh, it's because of control and DI and because of this. And like there's just so much information. It's at a point to where like I want to call the cops on everybody because it's like the more I see I get to know anybody, I'm like, okay, you're way crazier than I thought. You're about to lose it. It looks like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not, what I'm saying is like it's not, why do some people create these crazy murders and stuff? It's like, why are the rest of us not getting pushed past our limits when you really start to see what we're all trying to deal with? So it's almost like when I see somebody do some crime or some kid do some shooting or whatever, I'm like, I get it. There's so many other kids out there that feel that are just a hair trigger away, that feel that intense. They want to kill themselves or do some violent crime or whatever, but they just, for whatever reason, from God's graces, they just don't do it today. But they still have that exact feeling, and like one of them happens to do it. So I don't know if it would be so much of a preemptive thing, because the way I'm seeing it, looks like everybody's on a hair trigger. It'd be more of like I think where we would want to attack is post. So once somebody does something, it's like, okay, what's their motivation? Why they do it? What's their story? What's their point of view? What's their struggle? What's their bad guy? What's their fear coming from? That's where we're seeing that the current FBI and law enforcement, they do have a lot of good. They're the best profiling in the world, obviously, but there's a lot of gaps and a lot of consistency that they don't have, that like our stuff would really close in, especially when you have like a lead investigator and he's the same or similar type than the guy that did the fucking murder. Or you're having an IP guy who's the investigator. You're like, dude, you're going to have to do a lot of math to know what this guy's point of view actually is. Because a lot of the investigator people, they can only, you see this with therapists, like they can only help out to about here. They can't help the person way over here because they're completely opposite. Those people don't exist. Those people are crazy, you know? So a lot of blind spots that this math forces you to go, oh, that's what they're doing. That's why they did that. So this is why I would do that. If this was this situation, that's how I would feel, you know? So a lot of energy there. Thanks. I want to get that in real quick.
Great. Yeah. And so for everyone watching, hit like and subscribe. No, joking. Leave a comment if you enjoyed it, because I know a lot of people end up watching this kind of thing. And like, if there's anything we could do better, let us know. I'll read that. But yeah, it's hoping to achieve a better balance between questions from audience and also questions to Dave. Sorry, there was this other one. I don't know. There's one from Facebook that was really good from Magdalena, and it got some upvotes. Let me just ask that.
Yeah. Quick. Get a couple bonus rounds.
So she's a INTP. Oh, and I had to cover. Okay, there's two I have to mention. So yeah, Magdalena, she's mentioning, can he tell what he tried to achieve during the next 6 months, basically in 2023? What is his vision for this year? He said they're hiring people and business is growing, so he could tell more SI details. What is going on? What's he trying to do in SE reality? So this is kind of more like the SI approach. And I think it was like, I would like to ask Dave if he has a more solid plan regarding op meetups. Because you mentioned the op meetup. That got a lot of feedback, by the way.
Yeah,
from
great.
The community. Like,
yeah.
He said he's interested to create a space for opsians, I mean us, to meet and chat, exchange experience. So except for the great plan I'm a big fan of, does Dave have more concrete steps to achieve it? Like start some OP bases around the world, community driven at first, or something more business driven in the future?
Yeah. I wonder if I could kind of start to do some ST notes on the class notes doc, because you'll see me sneaking in there on the community thing. Because I think I can try and write, put some accountability on me to kind of write some of that out. Because to me, in my NI head, it's all like so clear and easy, and I'm busy, and so I think I could kind of write stuff out of like we'll have these inevitable goals of like meetups and stuff like that, and then it's just like, how the hell do I communicate? This is where it gets really hard with human sensory, of like, how do I communicate all the ridiculous stupid things that I'm doing all day that shouldn't be done, that my brain says they shouldn't be done, and your brain says, well, that's take 5 minutes. So it's just a lot of like stupid logistical things, like getting the Wix website code, getting the live show comments, and these are things that'll take like weeks. And so it's a lot of those, but they have to be done. They have to be done right. And they got to be settled, and then they got to like be on probation. They got to get something where they're not blowing up. But it's like, it's getting through a lot of those. And I don't know how long they all take, because I've never done them before and they're fucking murder. But I think I could at least communicate I guess I can at least communicate this. Like here's where my fucking FI is, and my demon flex doesn't want to like brag about it because I don't want to be tied to a timeline. You know what I mean? Like I learned that in RC days. Like, don't do that. Don't say a timeline. Because like that one code thing, it took you 6 fucking months. It's supposed to take a weekend, right? But I can say like I could be able to write out kind of like, yes, meetups are on the list in the inevitability somehow, some way. And if we could get somebody here sooner, then that's going to speed up the timeline. If somebody is like, yeah, I'll come in and help with this and that, you know, and it can help where you guys actually need it or whatever. So that'll speed it up, or we end up doing this or that. So it'll be like hiring. The meetups are going to be local. I do know that. We're going to start with local ones, and then we'll expand. Probably start with like Portland, and maybe Portland, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco. Just stuff in our normal stomping grounds. We'll just anything in driving distance, just because we're idiots, and we'll keep it to where we can win before it expands that way. You know, before it goes across the country, let alone fucking Europe. You know, probably do Canada before we do Europe, just to practice all the passports and all the real scary stuff out there. You know. But yeah, I mean that's back to what I was saying earlier of like the inevitability is there's a lot of energy that is going to go towards self-growth, communities online, live shows, as those are up first, live shows, then there'll be local meetups, and then you know, more spread out meetups, etc. I've been watching a lot of Owen Cook lately because he's been going on a massive meetup tour, and he's really got that down. And so I've been watching all of his videos the past few months for that in mind, because he's a guy that he's very similar type as me and ahead of me in so many areas, as well as a fucking goofball idiot. So I'm kind of like watching for the cringe factor, but I'm also like, okay, this guy has meetups down so good, and he loves meetups and he does them everywhere. How is he doing that? So I'm trying to get my FI really warmed up so I can see that's possible. I want to do it. Therefore, when we get to that stage, I can blaze through it. Finding that's helping a lot. I find I can get my FI on board with stuff faster and better these days, and get towards it. So I'll get a list.
That's really good.
And I'll put it on the ST class doc in the this weekend.
I think the way you did the different audio things you did for the social types when the social types are coming out.
Yeah, right.
So even if it's in like a 1 month thing of like, hey, here's my thoughts this month on August or whatever, I'm gonna
throw a scrap, right? Yeah,
some notes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just some audios, and then maybe you'll get feedback and people want to help. Like, hey, this is how you do logistics in North America.
Right.
Hey,
right.
we're gonna do stuff. Can you just throw us like a guide, and then we'll do it ourselves in Europe or something?
Right.
Like that's one way to do it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like clubs. University. I was president and founder of a club, and you know, we were thinking about going national or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what this could be. You know.
Yeah. I see it. Yeah, I remember Personality Hacker had a really good model where they said get a group X large and then get it established, and then we'll come visit it. Something like that. They did. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. So they kind of forced the. I know Europe's got a couple of big groups. Australia. I know America, of course. So yeah, I feel like it's back to this. Like the community's waiting for us. They're like, hey, we're here.
Yeah, Netherlands is pretty solid, by the way. They have a yearly meetup. I forget for how many years in a row, maybe 3.
Right.
At least maybe 3 years in a row. They're about to have their next one in June. And they invite me every year. London has been very consistent too. There are certain Australia has been consistent. There have been like some consistent groups in the community. So if you're out there on the YouTubes and you don't know, there are people possibly in your area who are interested in ops. And
yeah. I'm gonna be talking with Shani with that as well. I think she's gonna have her really lead up a lot of the community. I think the live show energy can start to go into a lot of these areas.
One important one from Caden was about how has Cody been doing? There's some FE for you.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's 12, 13. He's going down to LA for the summer. He's gonna be staying at his dad's house, and he was gone for COVID. He was down there for a whole year because they have the school fuck off thing. And so we're like, well, rather than staying at home looking at us, he went down to his dad's house in LA for a year. And so this summer he's going to be spending some extra time down there this summer. His half brother and sister are now getting older, and so he's even looking at possibly staying maybe some longer time down there, maybe a year, maybe a school year down there. He's still in junior high where school's kind of fake. Kind of want to get him settled by high school, not bounce him around and have all this chaos in his life. So it's been an interesting thing with the social dynamics, like having Cody as a number 4 who's like, I just want to have a normal life and be a kid. And we're like, you do, don't you? And then like both me and Shan, we both kind of play the masculine role as like number ones and twos and like competitive business people. It's like we're able to see like, yeah, we're putting the dynamic is we're, as much as we try and we'll put it on our list to like really meet his needs as a kid. And there's a lot of emotional resistance to that because you're like, no, I'm a good parent. So after you get through all that, you're kind of looking at it, you're like, yeah, he might have a better time, hanging out with the idiots down there, So he's heading out. He's really excited to go out for the summer. They've got a pool down there. He's got friends down there, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to kind of be kind of watching him going through that. But overall, he's doing good. He's doing really good. He's like doing good at school. He's happy. He plays a lot of video games. He's really learned to kind of play the only child role where he's like half kid, half adult, kind of like Stewie Griffin, He's like, you can like talk to him about like adult level stuff. And then he's also like, I'm going to go play ball. Then like goes and does kid stuff. But overall, he's doing good. He's doing good. But just really trying to keep our eyes and our focus on getting him all the way to be a happy, healthy, successful adult is kind of what our goals are. As we're doing childhood for the first time, and then you get it figured out, and then your kids are gone. That's what my mom said.
Okay. Sorry to. There's one big brain question from. Yeah. All right. This is hopefully the last one. From Guy Linares. He's a really good typer. And originally, Shannon mentioned that the socials are below the type, below your type, your animals. Does that still hold true? There are times when it feels like we see our social hierarchy better than our type.
Right.
So does it still feel like the socials are below the type, or like what's kind of?
I want to know why did we see them last? Like why didn't we see them in 2014? Like why were they like delayed? You know what I mean? Like from like what were we not seeing? Like I'll go to type people now and I'm like, how was I typing anybody without knowing Nick Walker is a number 1 and Big Rami's a number 4? I've been staring at those guys for years. Like, how was my brain making sense of that? Like, what was I? Oh, they're modified. His dad raised them that way. Like, no. So, I do think it. I think what Shannon's saying is right. I think it does kind of push through. Like, I think. And I think then your 512 type or your 128 type or whatever, I think kind of if you're a number 1 and then you have a 512 type that has good gearing for that, I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic. So you see like Shan as a number 1, but is not in a number 1 body. She's in probably be more of like a 2 or a 4, like a play EJ, should be more friends and chaotic and random, not a driven number 1. So there's like quite a bit of a contradiction there. And I think what she's saying is right. So like, because in the end, as we're seeing, especially just getting older, she's like, yeah, I want to be able to do my things my way, kind of have my name on stuff. And you know what, just real quick on that, go watch some of the motivational videos from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I really saw that a lot, where the dynamic of somebody who's saver TE, he's like, I have to be the number 1. I got to be the best. And then all the other filler was TE complaining about everybody else. And it was like his functions were like in his way and were bothering him and nagging him and not working with him because he was going to be a number 1 no matter what, So yeah, that's kind of how I'm seeing it. It seems to be a pretty big deal what your socials are. Not the sexuals, but the socials seem to be a big deal.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's kind of like the opposite for me. Like the socials, I feel like I see it much easier than the type, than the 512.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but the socials for me just seem like maybe it's that I'm a number 1 and I have to give everyone a job.
Right?
But
I know.
Like, is there a difference between you and Shan? Like, does Shan have an easier time typing? Because that's how I feel.
So we're just we're just a couple of months ahead of everybody else. So we're still in the what the hell is this stage. So literally like this week, her and I have been having a lot of like deep personal talks of think we're starting to see like the void between the 1 and the 2. Because for me, it's like because it's like I think a lot of people feel this way. Just like everybody in my life's an idiot and I can see all their shit. And a lot of times it's true because I'm like older and they're like 25 and a lot of it's just experience. So I feel like I feel like I'm always the smartest person in the room or whatever. And when I do get in the room with other people that are smarter than me, I'm able to kind of figure like, oh, this person's definitely above me. They can see me, I can't see them. And so some of Shan's frustrations and some of Void's problems that we're having seem to be something along those lines of like, she is able to see stuff and remember stuff that I just keep forgetting. There's like me with Cody. I'm like, hey, Cody, responsibility. He's like, yeah. And then he forgets. I'm like, damn it, that's really important. You forgot it again. And then like I'm doing that to Shan. She's like, hey, this thing over here and sign your name to it. Let's do this. I'm like, yeah. And then I forget, and that she doesn't forget. And so I'm wondering if it is kind of true, like kind of like what you're saying of like the top down thing of like, if it's easier to see somebody, I know it's easier abstractly speaking if you're older than somebody, you can see their shit and they can't see you. And I bet you some of that is true with the social things. I feel like the number ones can see me a lot faster and better than I could see them. It's kind of the feeling I'm getting, So yeah, I don't know how far it goes, but I do know that like more and more stories that I was processing this week. I was processing, not to run too long on time, but like I was processing like trying to judge myself with mistakes or problems according to the technology at that time. So it's like we're living in a world now where it's like, say you get Chat GPT and you're like, oh my God, I suck. I can't believe I did all this writing by myself, by hand, all these like, hey. No, but we didn't have that back then. Like you weren't being judged according to those standards or getting water from the creek and now there's running water. Like technology changes. Like you're being judged according to what you know at the time. And so it's like, just like catching it with Cody is a huge one. It's like, oh my God, we almost wrecked the kid's life. Like we almost were like the entrepreneur parents. Like, oh my God, like that's so scary. You're like, hey, what have I been doing the last 10 years? You're like, oh, hey, it's all right. You just found out about this. You're just waking up. Nobody else knows. Everybody else is wrecking everybody else's life and wrecking their kid's life and don't know that they're doing it. They think it's free will or God did it or whatever. But now you're able to see it. And you're like, oh, so judge yourself according to what you're able to kind of, but then I have some weird, crazy problem that just keeps getting smaller and smaller. It's like, oh, I don't have a weird, crazy, what's wrong with you problem. I have a 2 versus 4 problem. I have a 1 versus 2 problem. And you're like, oh, okay. So we can talk about that, identify that. And
that's so good.
Maybe make some changes.
It's so much easier, I bet, like with Shan and you, now that you know that this is a thing, you're like, oh, that's why we've been going at. It's like, oh, your responsibility on crack, and I'm just in the middle.
It is intellectually easier and so freeing, but like all of your emotional SF is still like going in this direction. And so it's like your mind is like, whoa, stop. And then your entire heart, your projection of that person, your relationships, how you think the world should be is still that water flow is still going. Like I'm still like, Cody's going to be an entrepreneur. And then like, so all that.
Back to let me pull an NI here. Like the Elon Musk is like, just because you know the game, like what he went wrong with this random video I saw of him talking about chess. He's like, oh, I already know the game. I already know all the. It's like, no, you still got to play it. Like everyone in the comments are like, hey, you still got to play it. The chess isn't crap. He's trying to promote his own game that he invested in. He's like, hey,
some TI game shitting on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like, you know the game of the social, and knowing the game isn't enough. You got to walk your SF animal. You got to walk the dog, right?
Yeah.
And everyone go check out the terms list. And yeah. And on that note, let me just flash some of these thank yous from the tribe. Thank you for your energy, people. It was a lot of good, loving energy in here.
Yeah.
Sammy was very happy to get her question.
Answered.
Yeah. Her. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's my demon friends. No.
Oh, my chest is horrible. You would think my chest is good. No. It's way low. I must say, Cody's chest is good. Cody is naturally a really good chess player. I'm serious. So
yeah,
I think it's
all right. I'm gonna end the broadcast. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, everybody. Let's do it again. Yeah. And look for some class notes updates this weekend. All right.